We're good? Alright, let's make sure our mics are on and give it a moment. I don't know why I have two here. I'm usually not hard to hear. Surround sound. Alright, call to order here today. We have 2 excused absences, but we still have 3 members here, so we do have a quorum. And we will begin the meeting on 6/25/2024 at 6:30 with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, full meeting tonight. Any amendments to the agenda? Yeah, Heather?
Well, when we get to the consent agenda, I'd like to remove the minutes from 6/11 meeting. I don't know if you want me to wait till we get there.
Well, let's wait till we get there.
Okay.
Josh, you have anything?
No.
All I was going to say is I want to add to the agenda as item H, we got the steering committee application windows closed, so we got those. So I just want to quickly talk about those for the downtown revitalization. And then I was thinking we could move G, the consent agreement for the setback violation, or to after the homestead tax discussion, just so we can give folks who are here the option to head out rather than wait for the whole meeting. Is that all right with anyone?
I think that's a great idea.
Cool. So we're just going to move G up to go after B. So folks don't have to wait around. Cool. All right. Any public comment?
No public comment. Did you want to go personal matters in executive session? We talked about that.
Yeah, we do want to do that. So
Okay.
I do have to add that executive session for personnel matter. But yeah, any public comments tonight?
I have a public comment.
What? Oh, so we have some. All right, cool. So just to remind folks, for public comment, everyone who wants to speak can have 3 minutes to share whatever they want to say during a public comment window. It's not a back and forth discussion. So if we seem like we're ignoring you because you ask a question, it's not that we're ignoring you. Just we have some boundaries that the public comment is just for us to receive. And if it's something we feel like we need to discuss at a later date, we'll build it into an agenda. So we might look quiet and stone-faced up here, but we are certainly listening. So if anyone has public comment, they can come up. We just ask you to give your name and the street you live on, and then you have 3 minutes. So just set it.
It's okay. It's all right. Yeah.
It looks ominous, but we're not mean. So
Okay. Good evening. I'm Emily Sampson. I live on Orchard Lane. I have 2 children enrolled at DCS, where I've been so pleased with the quality of the curriculum, staff, and administration. As I was considering the candidates for this role, I'm here to talk about the open school board role. I reviewed the boardsmanship presentation from the district council posted on the RSU5 website. The roles and responsibilities for board members are clearly defined. They're a governing board of the school unit, part of a team with a duty of loyalty to students, employees, and board members. Their code of ethics demands that community members do what's right for students, work well together, honor the appropriate process, and be professional. With that said, I would be looking for in a candidate someone who can work cooperatively with the board and the administration, someone who's collaborative, open-minded, thoughtful, and has a commitment to providing the highest quality public education that we can. When I look at the available candidates, of which there's quite a few strong ones, I think about I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, DeCeps, who has extensive experience and I believe is the only candidate that has been successfully elected for this role by the town. Dr. Ortiz, whose commitment to high quality public education and past leadership experience, I believe would make her more than capable of upholding the duties and responsibilities. Ms. Polster, who's a parent of a current student with a PR background and has a clear commitment to putting students first and the demonstrated ability to work constructively within the existing structure. And Ms. Worth, who, full disclosure, is my sister-in-law and one of my closest friends, but her bio also speaks for itself. She's an MBA CPA with extensive professional experience in that field. Her financial acumen would be an incredible benefit to the role. as a clinical social worker providing therapy services to people who qualify for MAIN care, including children. She has firsthand experience in the power of public education and the broader community needs. I don't believe you can go wrong with selecting either of these four. While I have respect for anyone who would dedicate their time to public service, I do have concerns about the remaining candidate because I do not believe his stated aims are appropriate for the clearly delineated roles and responsibilities of the committee. Mr. Osga's bio states that school boards ceased to exist as responsible stewards of public education more than 100 years ago. If it elected, it's my intention to restore these values. I don't personally agree with returning anything to more than 100 years ago, but more broadly, I believe this is a misunderstanding of the role he's seeking to be appointed to, and would be more appropriate for a legislative role to attempt to change the laws that govern the role of the school committee and shape the policies they put into place to abide by those laws. Waiting good.
We always appreciate public comment, so.
Are you comfortable leaving that for our board members that aren't here? to
Oh,
review
sure.
for next time? Is that okay? Yeah. Or you can send it to us by email also if you'd like. Okay. Thank you.
Any other public comment this evening? Okay, oh, yeah, come on up.
Hi there, mine's much shorter. Phyllis Brannon, Brookside Drive. I'm here in support of Michael Osga for the appointment to fill the vacancy in the RSU 5 school board seat. Michael has been and is a longtime resident of here in Durham. He's retired, so he has time to commit to meetings of the board and talking with parents. Michael will expect to listen to concerns of parents and students. He doesn't already know people on the board or have working relationships with them, allowing for a different perspective or concerns. 180 townspeople, already voted, expressing their desire to hear from someone who could have different ideas and resolutions to issues. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other public comment this evening? Okay. Well, we always appreciate public comment. We really do. So thank you to those who spoke tonight. Alrighty, old business. Jerry.
Yeah, so we need authorization to sign the legal services. You all reviewed that, you have it.
Yeah.
So I just need authorization
Cool.
to sign and send this on to the attorneys.
Yeah.
I make a motion to authorize Jerry to enter into a contract with, authorize the town. To enter into a contract with Party Clarity for our
Second.
legal services.
Alright, any additional discussion? Alright, seeing none, all in favor?
Thank you.
All opposed? Alright, thanks, Jerry. Alright, new business, 2024 tax commitment. We'll have Donna come on up. And Donna, can you just say your name and your title for those who are
Donna.
watching
Do you
at
want me
home?
to sit up
No,
there?
you can
No,
sit
no.
I talk very loud.
Can you just pass that actually?
Yeah, she does.
Turn it on.
Oh, sorry.
So my name is Donna Hayes, and I am the assessing agent for the town of Durham.
Perfect,
Ready?
we're ready to go.
Okay, so this year we picked up $5 million in new value.
Mm-hmm.
Our percentage of market value dropped from 67 to 57%. So that means that a homestead exemption is now worth $14,250 as opposed to $25,000. But we are doing a reval in 3 years, so we'll catch up. You have tax rate calculator sheets in front of you.
I was just looking through the packet. I didn't see
Okay.
them, but I might have missed them, because I see,
Yeah.
oh, I do see them, sorry. Yes, we do.
Okay. So when we calculate for commitment, we use our assessments and our revenues. It gives us a high and a low for tax rate. The lowest that we could go for a tax rate is $21.70, and the highest would be $22.78, which would allow us a 5% overlay. An overlay is kind of just that, it's leftover, it's money that we wanna put away in case there is an abatement, a large abatement, can also be used for uncollectible taxes, so you want some kind of an overlay. Last year, our overlay was $35,000. So, in what I gave you, if we went the lowest that we could go of the 2170, we have a negative overlay, which is unrealistic. So we have 2175, which gives us a $19,750 overlay. 2180, which is a $39,000 overlay, and a 2185, which is a $59,000 overlay.
What was 2175 again?
2175 was
For-
19,750.
And then 2180 was?
2180 is 39,517. So, on the tax rate calculator, I highlighted tax rates and overlays. I don't use a lot of our overlays. I haven't had a lot of abatements and I don't know how much we have for uncollectible. Given the fact that our tax rate this past year was $21.35, that helps. So it would, the minimum we could go would be a 40-cent increase. The other thing to consider is the fact that our homestead is less than it was before. So even if we had no change in the tax rate, if you had a homestead, you would see a $43 increase in taxes because the homestead went down. And you have more taxable value, so.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you said last year our overlay was 35,000,
Yes.
that was on the tax rate calculator, that's this,
Yes.
that's not what we used.
We
No,
didn't use it.
that's the overlay that we allow
Right.
through bringing
Okay.
a 2135 tax rate.
Okay.
Yeah. Josh, you have any questions?
What amount did we use last year? I'm trying to remember.
Of the overlay,
Yeah.
I mean,
wasn't-
did we actually use in
What,
abatements and
Yeah.
stuff?
did we use any? I'm trying to remember.
$1,000
Yeah, it wasn't
maybe.
much, yeah.
Yeah, because
I mean, there's always, I mean, you work all year. I have no idea I've made a mistake until tax bills go out and then, yeah.
Right. No, I understand. I'm
So,
just,
you know we're gonna have something, but how much, I never know. I don't think we need a big overlay. I think we could go with the least amount of overlay that we could.
that's what I was gonna say, so just, if I'm looking at the 2175 with a $19,000 overlay, but we anticipate that we will have more collection in the sense that homestead exemption has decreased the
Yeah.
percentage, so, it's less overlay than last year, but in my mind, that's not as much of a concern, because unfortunately we have the decrease in, homestead exemption, so I don't feel the need to go with any of the upper two numbers. But following your advice, I think it wouldn't be smart to go with the negative. Overlay,
Yeah,
so.
right, I mean, you gotta have something. The other thing about that is the reason that we do so many is to see how much of a difference a nickel makes
Mhm.
in overlay.
Mhm.
is there a reason you do it by nickel and not a penny?
Round, nickel or 0 or 5, it just rounds better. It's easier for collection and you don't have a third digit out when it comes time for.
Mhm.
Jerry, do you have any input?
No, we work together,
Mhm.
I would recommend the 2175.
That's what I'm thinking as
Well,
well.
the 19,750, I would recommend that. I think Donna would recommend that as well.
The lowest,
Right.
the lowest overlay that we can have.
The chances of us using this 19,000 overlay is like slim to none, so
Mhm.
there's
Right.
really no reason to go any higher than
And what
that.
we
Yeah.
don't use goes back into
Right.
undesignated, so.
And I think we talked about this in the budget season last year, and I'm gonna carry it over this year, like, with our tracking of undesignated funds, we'll be able to roll over into our budget if we wanted to, anything that we don't use, so we can make that correction going into the next budget.
Unrestricted.
Unrestricted, sorry.
Just make sure we're staying
Yes,
consistent
unrestricted.
language.
Either way, I think we've got to, we're positioning ourselves a little bit better to square the circle at the end of the year.
So, when we make a motion, do you want the motion to be for the rate or
Yeah,
for the overlay
the
amount?
rate.
The rate, okay.
So I agree that that's a number we should use. I just think I will say the disappointment that people are feeling with numbers going up and the homestead exemption going down. And I know that we did a good job with our town budget. And so I hope people start looking at, the other components of these figures. The county budget, I think, went up significantly this year.
So if I could add, the overall appropriations is exactly $1 million higher.
Mhm.
So that's how much needs to be funded, is another $1 million.
Right. And do you know, is that coming, a majority of that coming from the county budget?
So this is last year's, and I just took it for no, it isn't last year's. I thought it was, and it isn't, so this is last year. And you can just kind of look at it and pass it around, but when you look at the appropriations, you'll see what the county tax is last year and what the county tax is this year. Because even though, and the school and everything, so it leads up that the total appropriations is $1 million higher.
So 7 and 8, county is 7 and municipal is 8.
Mhm.
And municipal is actually down $500,000.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what Josh's point's making for folks who are watching is that, our goal this year, because we found a lot of savings opportunities and and we were able to use some funds to offset, expenses. We are really trying to keep our taxes as close to level as possible, and so we're looking at the budget here and the overlay. I think that 2175 number would do the best while still being responsible. So.
Yep.
Any other?
My only other question is around the hardship abatement. And because that was not for 2023, how does that work? I guess what I'm trying to say is if the abatement amount for 2022 is that figure, when we do the books, does it come out of the 2022 abatement? If the abatement was granted in 2023 for 2022's taxes?
So when I do an abatement, I'm abating value.
Right.
Okay,
So what happens is that value, of course, has a tax attached to it.
mhm,
When you do a hardship abatement, even though it's called an abatement, you're not touching the value, you're forgiving taxes.
Right,
Mhm.
you're just not collecting it.
You're just not
I
collecting
see,
it.
okay.
So it
Okay.
will come out of the year,
Right,
although there's nothing really to take it out of, because it's not the same as an abatement where it comes
Oh,
out.
of the overlay.
It just
Right.
goes away.
I understand. Thank you
Yeah.
for
Yep.
explaining.
So, I'm trying to see, last year's number here was 2126, or no, we went with
2135.
2135.
Yes.
And so this would be 2175, so 40-cent increase if we went with that number. Yeah, I would accept a motion for a number from somebody.
So it looks like I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
It's all set.
So I don't wanna make the wrong, I know what I wanna say, I just don't know that I'm gonna say it correctly.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to what, not accept, the
Select the
recommendation.
rate, yeah.
Select 2175 as our mill rate, tax rate, thanks Donna.
for
Yeah,
2024.
the rate,
For
whatever you wanna
2024.
call it.
Yeah.
Second.
Second, any discussion? So we've already discussed, but I think that is the lowest tax rate that has any sort of overlay, and we need to have some overlay to be responsible. But we can go with less of an overlay this year because of other changes in the budget, like with the homestead exemption. So this is what I think we would consider striking a good balance of being responsible while increasing the tax rate as little as possible.
I
So,
have one more question. Do we have to make a motion to go into Board of Assessors to do this?
You're the municipal officer
Right.
tonight,
Okay.
so you're
Right.
just signing on, and there's signatures on every page there,
Okay,
okay?
sorry.
nope, no worries. Any additional discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Any opposition? Alright. And where do you need our signatures on it?
She just went.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect, right
there's,
there.
every time you see lines.
While we're signing this, feel free to hop on.
Yeah,
to the
do you want,
homestead.
so there was some
So-
questions about homestead exemption.
Right, so a board member that's
Yeah.
not here tonight had questions about homestead and
Yeah.
how that works and how we can get
Yeah.
people,
Did Deb send you those questions?
I kind
Or
of
was
got
it
on the third
communicated?
hand,
Yeah.
but, I can talk about it if you'd absolutely like, or
I think
put something together and send it to you as a board if it's easier for
It-
her.
if you think you have a handle on the questions and you wanna put something together and send it to us so we can have something running, I think Deb's question was mostly, what percentage of people
Yeah.
are utilizing
Yeah.
the homestead tax exemption?
Yeah.
And then,
How do we get it
and
higher?
then, how do we get the homestead tax exemption higher, which we know is gonna happen through the reval?
Yeah,
And then, I know she was also wondering if there's any implications for if your homestead exemption increases and fewer people, your people are paying less taxes because they're able to exempt more,
right.
what that means for the budgeting process. Does that all have to be made up through the tax rate, or is there something offset by the state, or anything
Okay.
like that?
So, first of all, we have 1,142 homestead exemptions. That is 71% of what I have as residential properties. What I didn't do is try to figure out how many of those residential properties are eligible. I mean, just because you have the same zip code and it's residential doesn't mean that this is your primary residence. Doesn't mean that you don't rent it, doesn't mean that you don't claim Florida when you get hired. So, there was a time years ago where there was postcards and stuff sent out. I posted on our website, it's in our town report, and I've been here since 4 o'clock, and there were 3 individuals today who came in that filled out homesteads for next year. Everybody at the counter does it. I talk to everybody I see when I'm out doing field work. So we push it as much as we can. With the exception of sending a postcard or a mailing to everybody, I'm not really sure how
Yeah.
else to handle it.
Do you think 71% is similar to the other communities you work in?
I
Don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really
Mhm.
don't check. I mean, there's some things you can do and figure out mailing addresses, how much,
Mhm.
have the local zip code, and then how many of those after the 1142.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't, every town goes through a surge where all of a sudden everybody gets something in the mail that says, hey, the problem that you have is these started in 1997. A lot of people who've owned it for a long time, they don't even think they have it, but they've had it for all that time. It's been there so long you don't notice it anymore. So we get a lot of duplicates.
Mhm.
And, we can do things like town meeting, or Jess will probably kill me, but like a voting,
I was
the
gonna
kind
ask
of
if that's
voting,
appropriate.
we could
Mhm.
put out information and,
Don't we all get a tax bill, whether or not we're paying our taxes or there's coming out of our escrow?
it shows
Uh,
there.
And so everybody can look and you see, you
Yeah.
either get it or you're not.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the giveaway, right?
Yeah,
And
and,
that
and
can-
we try to do as much, try to do as much as we can.
Yeah.
Is
It might be worth, I don't know when the last time we sent some sort of townwide email or news blast or something to just encourage people to look
Yeah.
into it, because I think of it because I heard of some first-time home buyers who didn't know it was even a thing, you know,
Yeah.
that didn't get communicated to them. And I know that Deb had said the reason she was asking is because she just knows that, you know, especially for folks who are on fixed income and stuff like that, we wanna make sure that people are taking advantage of every opportunity they have to.
And I will say, unfortunately, or unfortunately, people my age are the ones that have them. They've had them for a long, if they've been here for a long time. If they move from somewhere else, they know about them. So it's the
Mhm.
first thing they wanna do is send us a homestead exemption.
Mhm.
It's usually first-time home buyers, younger people that we try to say, hey,
Mhm.
you know,
Two things. Is it legal to include a notice with tax bills?
no, we can do that. We can put a strip in with it and put whatever we want on it. There is I mean, I'm not doing it, and so I shouldn't say too much, but there is a spot on the tax bill that you can write something. You can say, hey, if this bill doesn't have a homestead exemption.
Does your bill say homestead exemption?
Yeah, you can do that. Now,
But we send our bill out to East Shore Printing,
I
so
know,
they
but
take
we
care of,
can-
can we do something?
yeah, but if hot, I mean, this is the other thing. If we're gonna do this, it needs to be in the budget for mailings and all that other
Yeah,
stuff.
and we're,
If we can, in between, do it,
Yeah, oh, and I know where your mailing
Electronically.
budget's already
yeah,
getting gobbled up. I mean,
Yeah.
at minimum, I think, especially if you think it's the younger, newer demographic, we know that we're engaging well in the electronic modalities with them.
yeah.
And that might be sufficient if that's the
Yeah.
vast majority there.
But
Or we can even put just something on the town
and
office.
everybody in the
sign up
town
for
office,
homestead.
I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's gonna come into the town office at some time to register a car, right? If you're not coming in, you don't get the homestead anyways,
Yeah.
cause you don't live
There
in.
is one in the Welcome to Durham packets that we pass out to people.
Yeah.
So if they
Perfect.
say that they're new to town, they get a packet, there's already a
Yeah.
homestead
And
exemption
they-
form in there.
I mean, they push it at the town office,
Mhm.
so- which is great.
Cool.
So
Oh, yeah, no,
the only
that's-
other thing that I wanted to say is that part of her question was that, how does it impact the budget? We get reimbursed,
We
right?
get reimbursed 50%,
Mhm.
Okay.
76%, sorry. I was in the betting mode, 76% from the state.
They don't follow your 0 or 5 rule.
No, they don't, but
Is that
I'll take
because-
it 1%
If
at a
there's a
time.
chance to advocate for 80% round
That's
up,
right.
I'm all for it.
Is the 76%, but now is it gonna be 57?
No,
Oh, okay.
no,
You get
because
reimbursed.
we're assessing, we're lowering our values to 57. So
Mhm.
we lowered to 57, and then they give us 76% of that.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're
I know,
70%
we're
of
on
our
the
towns
we're
already
on-
doing
we're
it.
doing
And the
it.
other thing is, that is in the tax rate calculation sheet. Now,
Mhm.
homestead reimbursement is right down at the bottom of the sheet.
Yeah, it says here it's like 268,
Yeah, that's how much we,
269,096 cents.
yeah, that's based on the amount that we have in the reimbursement.
Okay.
Well, I think this answers the questions
ahead.
that we had and that Deb had said to us, so.
Okay.
Can I change the topic for 1 second?
Of course.
And I'm not looking for an answer, so I wanna be clear. What, I know you've heard the move for the calendar year to the
Yeah,
fiscal.
fiscal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's something I think we need to start talking about more.
Yeah,
And so I think that that's a conversation that you should be involved in.
because we're gonna commit that same value for more than a year.
Right.
We'll either do it 18 months or we'll do a full year and then a 6-month year. That will get us into a July 1st. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess, without thinking about it ahead of time,
Oh, I thought,
Pros-
we
pros-
talked, I know about this,
Okay.
I'm into it.
okay, so it's something that we should look into from in your opinion?
We should do it with the next budget season, because it's more than just,
Maybe,
That's what I was thinking, but,
is that what you were thinking?
I wouldn't never push to do it that quickly, but, I mean,
Well-
if that's what you're pushing,
Well,
it's a
because-
conversation.
Well, you can
No,
go.
no, go ahead, no.
But when you do a budget, you have to do an 18-month budget.
Right.
Right? So, and the whole idea is, so the next budget will be for the 25 year, but that 25 year will go from January 1st until
June
June
30th.
26.
Right,
Right?
Yeah.
And then in on July 1st of 26, we're fiscal. And we have a revaluation coming
So-
in
February
a year,
27th.
yeah.
So that gets to the question I really wanted to get to, is before or after the revaluation, should we do this?
Well,
And so I guess
said
if you-
I said after, but I've been convinced that it should be before.
So that's a discussion
That's a
then
whole
we
nother
should.
can of worms.
Because what,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to change,
No,
I
no,
I
no.
did, I was expecting it to go in this direction.
Donna and I have talked, and we planned on coming in on an August meeting or
Yeah.
sometime and dive into this and have it being an item so we all understand
And-
how it works, the implications,
right.
what
And
we
it's
need to
not
do.
just this.
Yeah,
I mean, you need to see it in black
Right.
and white, cause you're thinking,
Right.
okay, this is like math, right? And the other
It's
thing
all
is to
important.
remember is it also moves it so that you have 2 payments of taxes,
Right.
which makes it easier.
it really is a more fiscal responsible thing to do because it lines us up with the state, it lines us up with the school, it lines us up with the county. Right now, when we do our budget, I have to do 6 months here, 6 months over there. Hopefully, it's okay,
Yeah.
but if we go that route, it'll be a little bit more fiscally responsible.
Is your question about fiscal year?
It's not a question, it's a comment.
Okay, yeah.
But
I just
yes.
wanna move past, that's a whole nother can of worms. I'd rather
Right.
Yeah.
discuss it later, cause we have a really full agenda, but if it's brief,
It's
go
just a
ahead.
brief comment that if, when we get to the point in August, when you come back and we discuss it, I think it's really important for us to do voter education going into the November election, because if we're gonna work on this for 2025, one of the things that we talked about when we briefly talked about the fiscal year was how important it would be to give people notice and education around that change happening, and I think our best chance to reach the most amount of people will be at the November election. So,
Yeah.
Jessica?
Okay. We'll talk about it in August specifically.
Any other questions for Donna about commitment or homestead tax exemption?
No, I just wanted to stick around for another 5 seconds when we go into the reevaluation
Oh,
contract.
Yeah.
That's all.
Oh, I had moved the,
I know.
setback
Should we-
violation after homestead, but if we need Donna,
Well, it's just, I just want, Donna read the contract,
Yeah.
we've read the contract, we're okay with it, we
Yeah.
don't see any red flags or anything.
okay.
I'm not sure if the board has reviewed it, if you have any
I
questions,
don't have
but
any issues
I just
with it.
wanted you to know that Donna's
I'm
read
good,
it, and
I'm good.
we're
Okay.
both good with it, that's
Cool.
all. Have a nice night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Donna.
Hi.
Thank you.
Alright, so we had moved the consent agreement for the setback violation up to be respectful of folks' time, so we can hop into that. Jerry?
Yep, Fallon and Alan, you wanna come up, sit with me, do you want this? I think that's, is that all of it? Okay.
She's gonna take.
All right, so this item here is, relates to a property, is it 657?
356.
What is it?
356.
356 Swamp Road, where there's a setback violation that came to fruition with a mortgage survey. And Alan's here, he can explain how it all transpired. But what we're looking to do, the house is up, the foundation's in, the windows are in, the porch is on, and now we've realized that according to the boundaries, the mortgage survey, we're in violation of the setback by like 3 feet, I believe, but Alan has a little bit more detail on that. So we're looking for a consent agreement to keep going with the project. So, if you want to explain how it all transpired, that would.
So, and I'd like to ask the La Rochelle's actually to come up and sit, and if I say something that doesn't sound right, please correct me. So,
Alan, can you just tell us your name and in the
Yeah.
microphone?
Alan Plummer, Code Enforcement Officer for Durham, and the people over here are,
All La Rochelle. Skylar La Rochelle.
Oh.
Skylar La Rochelle.
And Caitlin Belanger. All 308 Swamp Road.
so, back in November of 2023, Skylar had come to me and mentioned that he had talked to the previous code enforcement officer and gotten the go-ahead to build on a piece of of land. And I said, okay, I need to review all that. He said, well, you already said it was okay. And I said, well, he's gone, and I need to review all that. So I need to review it for the things that I look at every time. So I did that, and I found out that perhaps because of the rezoning of the resource protection area, that they didn't have a building envelope large enough to build on the parcel that they were talking about. So I noted that, and we talked about what they could possibly do about that. So they regrouped and decided to find a professional to map out exactly where the resource protection zone is on their parcel, which they did. And they came back, I think it's mainly Soils LLC, who you contacted. And they found out that the resource protection was in error, the zone was in error, and they provided me with documentation and a building envelope of 40,406 square feet buildable area that is on the parcel that they were talking about. Their parcel is 300 by 300 square, and handed down. Did you sell this to them?
I sold it to my son Darren, and Darren gave them that parcel of land.
Okay. So there was not a survey done on the property, is that correct?
No.
So I collected that information. I got the information that I saw there. I looked at the tax map, looked at the area that they were talking about, keeping in mind that the resource protection area was right behind them. Mm-hmm. And it's quite a steep drop off in the back there. Mm-hmm. So they said, I'm gonna need you to give me a plot plan for that, and I'm gonna need you to stake out the area that you want for where you want to put your house. And keep in mind that the setback, as determined in our land use ordinance, is 50 feet. That's on page 10 of our land use ordinance. And this is kind of known, any town has a setback area, and this page is ours. It says minimum setback, front lot line, residential, 50 feet. That's the information I've gone with for the 2 years that I've worked in Durham. You know, I've mentioned before that our ordinance has some holes and some problems and some conflicts in it. Not until I got a letter from their mortgage survey did I ever, and this is a mistake on my behalf, look at the definition for front setback. I didn't need to. I didn't even think I needed to, because it's very clear in that section right there that the front lot line residential setback is 50 feet. However, the surveyor pointed out that in our definitions, setback, front, is the distance between the street right-of-way or easement line extending the width of the frontage and nearest part of any principal or accessory structure. So our front setback is not from the property line, as it says in our ordinance, but it's from the right-of-way line. The reason I didn't question it, one of the reasons is, in the town I worked at previously, their setback is from the middle of the existing road. And there are other towns that have that same setback. Some people I've talked to since then, because I've talked to a lot of people. I wanna do the right thing, and I've talked to surveyors. Some people are very surprised that I didn't realize that the right-of-way is the front property line. I don't have a problem with that, because I know I owned a parcel in Augusta, and my front property line was the edge of the road, and my right-of-way went through my living room. So therefore, my property line was in front of the right-of-way, so I really didn't have any concern with looking into it further. That's what I went with. So now, the surveyor has mapped out this area that says it's 40 feet is what they found from the iron pins that they located. And you did you have knowledge of any iron pins or not?
Yes, we have iron pins. In fact, we have a picture of the home. we have some numbers that we measured out from the center line, the edge of the road, and the iron pin. Yeah, and of course, Caitlin and Skylar last night put together something that they wanted to read to the board.
Sorry, can you say that again? I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, Caitlin and Skylar have something in there that they wanna read to the board.
And let me just wrap up with this. And so the mortgage survey, and I talked to the mortgage survey person, his name is Dave Hughes of Livingston Hughes, says they found 40 feet from the right-of-way line, and I said, how do you know that's the right-of-way line? It's like, well, we don't, but this is just a mortgage survey. It was a $300 survey, and we're gonna go with that and say those pins are the right-of-way. Well, can you tell me what they need to do in order
Sorry,
to,
who told you that?
Livingston Hughes,
Okay,
the surveyor.
Thank you.
He said they'd have to pay for a boundary survey. So, okay, that's fine. That's kind of messed up, but that's the information I got. They won't move forward without a letter from the town saying that we're okay with the setback that they have now in place. I guess that pretty much lays it out.
But I wanna add to that. So when Alan went out there, thinking it was 50 feet from the road, he measured 80 feet. Because he's trying to help them out and trying to stay within those lines. And it just turned out that it wasn't really from that point. So we tried to get him back away, even more than the required 50
Yeah,
feet. So-
when I told them to stake it out, I said, it's 50 feet setback, but don't put it at 50 feet. You know, go some.
What's
And they,
the
and
distance from the back of the house to the nearest corner, or nearest piece of resource protection?
they're well away from
So
resource
there's
protection.
no concern if they didn't have enough space behind them?
No.
We just have to meet the 100-foot setback from the brook.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was what.
That's what I'm getting at, it's just,
Yeah.
it's a big enough lot that even if you went back further, it's not like you're bumping right at 100 feet from the edge of the brook?
Correct. We
Okay,
have
yeah.
like 110 to the brook.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I wanted to stay off of the brook for the eaves as well.
Yeah.
And I think we're 84 feet from the resource protection
Mhm.
line, right down the back of the house. So if you look at those numbers that we put out there, those are numbers that we measured out from the pins, which supposedly are the boundaries, the edge of the road, the center line of the road. So on the.
Can I just stop, I'm sorry, I just wanna make sure I understand, what this surveyor found is that the boundary of the right-of-way for the road is 40 feet from the center line?
No, it's actually 37 feet. 33 feet.
I mean,
I think
I mean,
it's a three-
isn't that
it's a three-rod
seems
road.
It's a-
obscene?
So,
That seems,
so since then, I've
2 or
gotten
3
information about all of our roads, and that is a 4-rod road.
The rod's
But-
16 and a half feet.
yes.
What does that mean?
It means
So-
it's a it means
That's
it's a
a
right of way
4-rod
is
road?
4 rods wide.
Swamp Road.
And a
Swamp
rod
Road.
is 16 and a half
4.
feet. So it's 33 feet on either edge from center to
66
center.
feet
Yeah.
wide,
So,
which is unheard of on a local road like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
So I'm gonna blame this directly on our ordinance. And that's what I followed, and there are a lot of things that you could do very easily to resolve this down the road. I just want to throw that out there. If it just said, refer to the definitions, or it said, you could just say, from the right of way. Those are a few words that would fit in that space easily in the
I
ordinance.
think that's besides the point right now.
Yes.
That's for further
Yep.
discussion. A couple things I have for questions. Heather, you can go first, though.
Who determines how many rods a road is? How is that determined?
Years and years and years
yeah,
ago,
that's-
1800s.
yeah. You gotta go to
Where
the
is it said that that's a 4?
Registry of Deeds.
Okay.
And Sean.
In this document,
Yeah, they
Mann
actually
Associates.
had Mann Associates go out and do Durham roads and see what these
So
right-of-way widths were, because it matters.
So state roads obviously are different than not, than town roads.
Yeah.
And they measure the distance from the center line for what the setback is for the road itself, right? That's why the state had to come fix when my whole driveway washed out, because it was in the state's
There's still a
right of
right,
way.
there's still a right of way measured.
So
and
what I'm
mapped.
confused about then is how the right of way is measured on a municipal road versus how they measured who was responsible for fixing that, right?
Yeah,
Because then
so-
that's where the edge would start, correct?
So, no, the edge of the road does not start at the edge of the right.
No, I mean the edge of the.
And so my understanding of it is that whenever the road was laid out, I do not know what year Swamp Road was laid out. I'm certain it wasn't recently. Whatever year the road was laid out, it was determined that the right of way for that road was gonna be 4 rods, which is 1 chain. Not very intuitive, measurement units nowadays. But that's why, when they look at the registry of deeds, they'll say, property boundaries start at the edge of the right of way here, correct?
Yes,
And then.
but not,
running
not
into-
always.
Right, and what
Not-
we're running into confusion is here, is that you measured 80 feet off the edge of the road, and it turns out that 80 feet off the edge of the road is not 50 feet off the edge of the road.
I measured 72 feet off the edge of the road and 82 from the central line of the road.
Mhm. Yeah, and so what we're just getting at here is, you measured from what you thought was the edge of their boundary. They built and told them they could build there. They built there, and then now we're finding that that was not the edge of the right of way. So,
Correct.
Couple questions I have. So you said that in November of 2023 they got the go ahead to build. Was there a permit application or a thumbs up or a handshake or something from the previous code enforcement officer?
There was a nod.
Okay.
Actually, I think Bob.
So I said no.
Yes.
I'm
Bob,
taking it we don't have a copy of the nod in the.
There's no copy.
we have a camera there now, though.
Yeah. Okay. And
I
so.
feel like there's a driveway permit, though,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
There was a driveway permit.
Before I continue further, it sounds like you all had something you wanted to say to us, and I want to give you the chance to speak too. And just say if what, we're hearing from our code enforcement officer is everything that you agree with, so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, no, for sure. We wrote something, that we're here tonight regarding our new construction build at 356 Swamp Road. From the beginning of this project, it's kind of quickly gone from something that should have been really exciting for us to a little bit of a nightmare. But so my fiance and I went to apply for our building permit and were told that it wasn't a buildable lot anymore due to the resource protection zoning that was put into place after we obtained the property. After having Mainly Soils LLC do a soil conservation survey, we determined that we had a building envelope of 40,406 square feet, same as Alan said, and the town only requires 40,000. So we thought we were good to go, but then we met with Alan and he told us that as long as we were 50 feet from the edge of the road, we were all set. So we broke ground, the house is now framed, doors are on. I know the picture's not that great, but you can kind of see that there's a structure there. But yeah, the bank surveyor came out after we made our first draw. They had to come out and do their appraisal, and determined that we are too close to the town setback from the front boundary line, and has now made us halt construction until we resolve the issue. At this point, we are kind of too far along to tear down or move the building, so we're attending this meeting in hopes that you guys can kind of work with us to resolve this issue and allow us to continue construction where the house sits currently. We realize that it's kind of been determined already that we violate the town's setback codes. However, we feel that there's been many instances where we could have determined this before we built it, so we're at a little mixed up situation here.
Getting into a home's never not stressful, and I'm sure
Yeah.
this hasn't made it any less stressful. So, Alan, couple questions. Do you have the report from Mainly Soils?
Yes.
So my impression is that the resource protection there is due to a stream that has a 100-foot buffer put on it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding would be that the only thing that the consultant could do is go out and get a GPS location of the stream, get a 100-foot horizontal direction, not including grade. And so it sounds like they did that and found that the stream was further back on the lot than had been depicted on the resource protection map.
I believe that's the case.
Okay, and But you do have a copy of.
Yep, I do.
You have that here with you.
But that's not the issue though, right?
Well,
I
no,
mean-
there's two issues, is they have enough buildable space, and the resource, and the resource protection said no. They hired a consultant, which is the proper thing to do, and they found, yes, we do have a large enough lot, so we've exceeded that. And now the question is, did we have the appropriate setback? And so, sounds like that the issue is the setback.
So-
If I'm being completely frank, in my opinion, I think you all did all of your due diligence, you've done everything right and above the bar. And in my opinion, it seems like the error was not on you, and so I'm not of the mindset that we wanna punish you for getting the go-ahead and working within where you were staked out. That's my thought process, we can talk about that further as a board, that's kinda where I sit, so.
I move that we authorize, I guess probably from town manager.
I can write it
or-
in here.
Build code.
Yeah.
You don't
So-
want it to work.
I can do that. The ordinance says I can do that.
Yeah.
I can administer consent agreements.
So I move that we allow either Alan or Jerry to sign a consent agenda on the town's behalf, allowing
Construction to
this
continue.
construction to continue.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's all the
What's-
surveyor
what's-
said he
wait, I need a
needed.
second, in order to continue. Can you second it? Yeah, so Heather seconds it, motion. Any further discussion? I was just gonna say, I appreciate you all going and doing everything exactly right. You know, this board takes these violations very serious, and oftentimes when they're coming to us, there's some funny business that has occurred from the other side of the building. And that's not what's happening here, so I appreciate it. I know it's super stressful, it takes up your time to come here on a weekday and go through all this, but, that's what I have to say for discussion. Did you have anything to add?
Yes, the surveyor said all he needed was a letter from me. He didn't even say from the town. So that's all they need to continue. And I have learned something valuable. And I know where the boundary is, but I do, that needs to change in our ordinance. It's just very clear it needs to change.
Yeah.
And that'll come up during
We're just
codification.
discussing the motion now, we
Yeah.
can discuss that at a later date. But seeing no additional discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Alright, so Alan, you're just gonna get that letter.
Will do.
Can you do that this week for them so they
Yep.
can get back to work?
Yep.
And then
Thank
can we-
you.
Yeah, no problem. We wanna see a copy of it too, just so we can know.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Okay, I wanna say thank you.
Thank you very much, I
appreciate it.
No, thank you all for the due diligence there. Alright, so now we have authorization to sign the reevaluation contract.
And actually, I think you have the contract in there. So there's actually,
There's only one, because when I had computers, so I told us to.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine.
I mean, I've looked at it, it's fine.
and there's actually a place for 5 signatures.
Yeah.
For the board to sign, so I didn't.
Yeah, we'll sign it, and I'll still ask, the two excuse members to come through and sign too,
Okay.
so. Just for everyone here who's listening, you know, we selected a contractor for our reevaluation, and as soon as they can get to us in 2027, but we're gonna have lots of outreach and education on what the reevaluation means for us, so. Jerry's Allen leaving, or is he gonna stick?
No, I think he's gonna stay.
Cool. And so we had a couple quotes, and we went through the public process and picked this firm, and we're just signing that.
Do we need to vote on the authorization?
I think we already did, we just have to sign
No, I
it.
think, because if you sign it, you're kind of authorizing it
Mhm.
that way.
Cause we already voted to pick it,
Right.
so. Next is gonna be the authorization to sign the solid waste contract.
Yeah, and I sent that to you late, I have it here, I'm not sure if you had a chance to review it, but it's basically an extension of.
I just, sorry, can we back up for a second? I think for consistency's sake, we should vote to authorize the reval, because we voted to authorize the legal services, and then I think we should vote to authorize solid waste.
I think the difference here, and we can go to that, but I think the difference here is that when we're voting to authorize, we're authorizing Jerry to sign it, whereas here we're just signing it, right?
Right.
So we don't have to vote to authorize to allow ourselves to sign it, so,
Okay.
but if you have a preference, if you wanna do it one way or the
No,
other, I'm
that's fine.
completely open too, so.
That's reason enough for me.
Solid waste contract, you said, saying Jerry?
Yeah, it's right here, I sent it to you, I think I sent it to you yesterday.
Mhm.
Apologize for that. think you got it, though,
Yeah,
previous to that too. So this runs out in a few days.
yeah.
Is this different because they designed it different?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's their contract.
Yeah.
Do either of you have questions about the solid waste contract?
Not unless Jerry can lower the cost.
Guaranteed pickup.
I don't, I just need to go back to this because I'm splitting hairs for 1 second.
That's
right?
fine.
So we're a town manager form of government, and it's totally fine if we're the ones signing it, so this is the way that we do this. I just wanna make sure that we're being consistent and following the way that we're supposed to do this in the town manager form of government.
Yeah, either way,
So
Okay.
either we can sign it and authorize it, or we can, or sign it
sign
in
it
the
or
contract,
authorize.
or we can authorize Jerry to sign it on our behalf.
Okay.
And I think the reason we just went that way is because they submitted the contract with us with 5 signatures on the impression that the board
Yes.
was gonna vote on it, so.
Got it.
In the solid waste, there's room for 1 signature.
Got it.
So if you authorize me to sign it, I'll sign it, send it off to them and.
So it is confusing, but we just kind of
No,
went there.
I got it, I understand.
Yeah.
So then I move that we authorize Jerry to sign the solid waste contract.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Perfect, thank you.
Any opposition? Cool. Alrighty. Next, we have our land use article 5.14 and 12, which is pertaining to the historic district. Help me out here, Brett. Commission.
Yeah,
There's a
right,
lot of
historic
historic,
district.
Durham Historic District, fill in the blank, I wanna make sure I say the right one, so. This is regarding the Durham Historic District Commission, and we have some proposed changes that they wanted to go over with us, and we're just talking about what that could look like, in terms of developing, some warrant language to vote on changes in April, correct?
Correct. So, since I've been here, there's been some confusion on who does what, when they do it, what kicks it off. So we have a case here of the left hand maybe not knowing what the right hand is doing. You've got overlapping jurisdictions, different entities involved, and nobody really knows who's doing what. I'll read a conclusion to you that George had put together, because he's looked at this extensively.
And I should just caveat here that the goal tonight is to just hear what folks think should be changed, or what folks think edits are, hear from our town planner as well, and then we're kinda gonna digest the information, so we're not, the questions that I want the board to ask tonight are just if we have questions regarding, some language, not necessarily discussing the merit of this change versus that change. This is just kinda step one. It came out of our workshop where all the boards and commissions came forward and raised with us questions that they had for us to work on for the year and try to fix some of these issues, and that's where we're now in that step. So.
All right, so
Jerry, is what you were gonna read with us or in our email?
it's part, it was George's, and his,
Report?
yeah.
And
I don't
that's
think you
email?
have it, you don't have it just yet, but I can get it to you.
Okay.
So, he writes, over the past 6 years, I've observed that the overlapping jurisdictions of these 3 town agencies, the redundant historic protection regulations of the land use ordinance, and the complexity of historic preservation have led to constant confusion on the roles and responsibility of the code officer, historic districts commission, and planning board, and much conflict between them. Multiple property owners have expressed dismay over the confusion of town staff and appointed officials when applying for permits. And he's provided a report offering recommendations for simplifying and streamlining this process. So right now it's confusing, because Alan will come to me and say, I don't know what I need to do here. I don't know who's in charge, I don't know. And George can probably explain it a little bit more, because he has it, but this needs to be resolved, because it's constant, like I said, confusion, and I don't know what they should be doing.
Yeah.
It's not my bailiwick. I just want to kind of like simplify this. And George has made recommendations, like I think 12 talks about historic districts. Well, we don't have districts. We have one district, not districts. So does that fit? That's something we need to discuss and talk about. So I would strongly recommend working this and maybe potentially going to town meeting with a better ordinance, so we all know what we're all supposed to be doing here.
You have some questions, Josh?
The paperwork that we got sent, are these the changes recommended by the commission, or are these,
No, that's
this
what's
is
in
the
the,
land use ordinance
that's the land use
now?
ordinance as it's currently written now.
Yeah,
Yep.
and my hope is, based off what Jerry was just saying, is that we can hear from the town planner the recommended changes, we can hear from the Durham Historic District Commission their recommended changes, and so we can start evaluating, because I think that there's a general consensus that there's not a consensus.
So I don't wanna sound disrespectful, but to me, this would be a lot more fruitful if we had the recommended changes in front of us, so that we could compare. Because otherwise, I feel like we're gonna go line by line, and we're gonna be here all night.
Yeah, and so, to that point, I think, again, that the goal tonight is to just get this topic on our minds and in the public arena, and I think that what would be helpful is if we proposed that we either had an extra meeting or just dedicated one meeting to a workshop, like you said, Josh, where we have both of them, and then continue to figure out where we need to kind of cross-reference and that sort of stuff, because I agree that we would wanna see them both at the same time.
I don't know if the Historic District Commission has recommended changes. That's what I'm not sure if we,
I thought that's what.
I
led
know,
to this
I know
discussion.
George has recommended changes.
Paul, please. If somebody wants to
I
come
don't-
tell us, my impression was, from discussion from our workshop, that they had gone through and had some recommendations that they wanted to propose as well. I wanna address.
I don't know.
Lois, is that correct? Cause you were at you can come up, yeah. And again, tonight, we're just trying to get everything on the table. We're not debating the policy itself, we just wanna get everything on the table, so.
So good evening, I'm Lois Kilby Chesley, I'm Chair of the Durham Historic District Commission.
I got it written down.
Thank you. Yes, so we've been working on changes for 3 years plus, because we were given that task by the town planner several years ago. So we've been working on it. We do have changes available. We weren't asked to bring them, so I don't have copies for you.
That's fine.
But we have been working on it, and we have completed, I would say, most, if not all, including some things that need to be changed in the definitions part. That was the issue, because definitely Alan's right, that not everything aligns. So we've changed some of the definitions around as well.
And would it be easy enough for you all to email those to us as a board and Jerry, so we can have an electronic copy of those changes to see as well?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
I will tell you why we didn't do that.
Mhm.
So there's been a lack of communication between who's expected to do what. So the commission asked the town planner to be ready to prepare something in the fall of 2021, I believe, or perhaps 2. But when the time came, it wasn't that the materials were available for us, they were already printed into a booklet and handed to us. So that sort of lack of communication on how things were going to be done, because what we thought we were doing, the town planner thought he was doing, and so it caused a great deal of conflict, because what we had been told to do no longer needed to be done. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like if I say, you know, go bake a cake, and you bake the cake, and I say, no, we don't want a cake anymore. It's a waste of everyone's time. So the lack of communication is an issue.
Yeah, so my hope, Lois, is that with our workshop we had earlier this year, where everyone brought everything to the table, I hope this is us showing you that we heard that there was that concern here. And so that's why tonight is we're requesting, in an official capacity, requesting you send us that information. And we're kind of looking in the windshield, not the rear view right now, to figure out how we can better move forward, because the only thing we can agree upon is the that we can't agree upon it. So I want us to start working in the right direction, so we're gonna get that from you, and then we'll review it, and we'll get some from our planner as well, and we can review it, and then find how we're gonna move forward in preparation for the April meeting, so.
So a piece of the communication, I could have sent this to you.
Yeah, no.
If I'd known that you wanted it, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that. So
No.
yes, I mean, it's on the computer, it's already,
I think there's a.
they're going out. It's color coded, cross outs,
Yeah.
underlines. It's very easy to see the changes that we've made so that you can read it and see those changes if that's what you'd like.
Awesome. If you could send us a copy of that.
Definitely will.
That would be great.
You'll get it
It might be
tomorrow.
It might be a few meetings before we can get this on our agenda, but we want to work on it later this summer or in the very early fall, so we can make sure we're setting up for something for the April meeting.
The fall will be much better because the commission is not meeting in July because of a lack of a quorum.
Mhm. That works. So I just wanted to make sure by tonight what we're doing is we're vocalizing the needs and developing a schedule together, so we're all on the same page and we can start working towards that stuff. And we'll review what you have and we'll review
Okay.
what the town planner has.
Got it.
Does that work?
Works for me.
Perfect. Heather?
This seems like a very silly question, but I'm on our land use ordinance, I have it pulled up, and 15.2 is under
It's
mobile
supposed to be
homes.
15.14.
5.1.
5.1.
Sorry,
Under the same
Yeah.
thing.
sorry.
It's okay?
We solved that problem.
No, we're not the mobile home company.
Take our wins where we
The
can get
first
them,
one I
right?
looked at said explosives, and the second one said mobile home parks, and I was like, am I losing my mind? What's happening here?
Explosives. No.
You don't have a historical ordinance.
Yeah.
There's explosives, there's mobile homes.
Well, perfect. If you could send us that, that would be great, and I just want to, you're on our thought process
Thank
for
you.
somewhere in the late summer and early fall.
And we appreciate
Yeah.
that. We appreciate the effort that everybody's making to get our name right as
Yeah.
well, so thank you.
Yeah, we want to talk about the name too.
Well,
The
and that
terms.
was one of the goals that you gave us that we received from you. We had 3 goals, I think, that we got from you, and one of them was to talk about changing the name. So we started to discuss it, but didn't come up with an
That's
answer.
all right, yeah. Perfect.
One more question.
One more question, yeah.
So, when we put them on the agenda for the next meeting,
Well, they're not for
not the
next-
next
oh,
meeting,
sorry.
the next meeting that we're going to have them on the agenda to discuss this. They'll be notified that they're on that upcoming agenda to be
Mhm.
here. Yes?
Yes.
And at that time is when we'll discuss the merits of what we would be having the planning board hold a public hearing when we got to the point.
Planning board?
Well, the planning board has to hold the public hearing on ordinance changes. So once we get to the point where we've made and agreed to the changes that we want to put out to the town to vote on, the planning board holds the public hearing on those changes, yes?
Yes, I mean, they have, what we're doing on others, you have public information meetings in the fall and December, and then whether it be conservation or the planning board puts together a final draft, if you will, that goes to the select board, you then vote that that's what you want, then you
Yeah.
send it to the planning board for the formal public hearing.
Yeah, and so I think that one thing we may want to consider, and this can come out a little later in the summer or fall, is I know in the past where we've had commissions kind of doing some legwork, they had an information session, and then the planning board itself had the public hearing. So
Right.
we can kind of hammer out those details.
That will all work the
But,
same
yeah.
way though, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I do think we want to make sure we're just saying here that when we want to put you on the agenda for the next time we have a meeting that we want you on the agenda, we'll make sure that you all as a commission get an email directly from either the town planner or us, at least, and ideally it would be 2 meetings in advance, but sometimes if things get moved around. But I just want to let you know, think about that August timeframe, and it's always Tuesdays, so.
Yes, it's always Tuesdays, we know that, thank you. And just so that you know, August is a difficult month for everybody in Maine too, because it's one of the 12 days of the year that there might be sun.
Yeah. It's
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Perfect. Jerry, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
No, I'm just looking to get this.
George, did you
resolved,
have
that's all.
anything you wanted to add? Okay, cool. Josh?
I was just gonna say, we have, George has been here, I don't know if he's here for something else, but it seems silly.
No, I'm here for this.
It seems silly if there's nothing else.
Well, if
That-
you have questions, I'm
Yeah.
available to answer them.
No, I don't have any for George, do you?
There's nothing for you wanna present to us on this topic, or?
But you can email us your,
I've already.
yeah, sorry, we have it, but, yeah, we have it, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I guess I'm just gonna call out the elephant in the room because that's what I do. The differences between what the planner would perhaps be recommending versus what the commission would perhaps be recommending would be that the planner is looking at it from a, being able to facilitate the document, for lack of a better way of saying it.
I
Like to
don't-
be able to accomplish the job of the code enforcement officer and the town
So-
planner.
I really wanna wait until we can get a copy of both of their proposals and do this in a workshop format on these details, cause I wanna make sure that we have the opportunity as individuals to review the material in advance, so we can come and kind of do it in a workshop
Okay,
space. So the
that's fine.
details
I'm
on
just
that.
trying to understand why it would be two separate things, like when the planning board makes changes.
So
or
the way I think of it, and I don't wanna speak for the organization, but the way I think of it is that we have an organization that is dedicated to us, that is dedicated and has passion to a certain portion of our code, and when we're talking about needing to make changes, we have a difference in opinion from the town planner and from that organization as to what changes need to happen. As the policymakers, it's our job to figure out what we want those changes to be proposed to the town. And so regardless of what those differences are, we need to rectify something, you know, and so I just wanna do that in the workshop format after we all get information. Does that work for the two of you?
Yeah,
Yeah, cause I just don't, if we go down the minutia of like, well, what exactly are we talking about, that turns this whole just process playing out into a different meeting, so.
okay, so at that meeting, I'll get an understanding of why it wouldn't be the same document coming to us.
Yeah, and we'll
Collective
get those documents in advance. We've already got the one from George, and we're getting the one from the Durham Historic District Commission this week, and then we can review them. We can see what we see for changes. If we have questions, we can then get questions pulled together. If we feel the need to ask questions, we can do that sooner than later, but, yeah,
May I ask a question?
sure.
The report that you have, is it the printed book or is it something different?
I don't remember. I'd have to look. Again,
It's the
it's
same.
online.
It's the book that has the,
August 22.
thank you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as your man, I just want the confusion to stop.
Right.
And that's,
That's
yeah,
all from
and the
manager's
whole
point.
point
I want
tonight.
the code officer to know what he's responsible for.
Yeah.
Because it just makes it easier and it
Yeah.
keeps people from getting pissed off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
That's
that's
what I'm
what,
trying to resolve.
and that's what I wanted just tonight to be. We're gonna lay out that
Right.
process and just showing the good work that came out of our workshop, where we all came
Right.
together as a boards and decided what we needed to do this year. Alan, you had something?
Will I be able to share at some point my perspective as code officer?
Yeah, I think we would want you involved
Okay.
in that as well. So we'll keep in mind that sometime in August, probably, keeping up to date on that, so.
Okay.
Cool. Anything else?
This is gonna be a workshop, and it's gonna be expected that George, Alan, Planning Board, Historic District Commission, we're all gonna be there.
That would be my intent. And-
I feel like I was expecting that conversation tonight, so I wanna make sure.
Yeah.
Since they're all here, I feel like it's kind of wasted everybody's time.
Well,
I just
I
wanna
think
make sure that that's the expectation.
I think what we wanted to do tonight, based off my discussion with Jerry, and I could have communicated this better to everyone, is that just get this process laid out in this public venue and make sure that because we don't have all the information at our disposal right now to dive into this, and I think it's important that we have the chance to review it before we dive in. And I also think that this is an important topic, so I'd like to plan for a meeting to do it at where we can dedicate a lot of time to it. And we just had some emerging issues arise, especially with the setback and stuff like that, that would have made this that would have turned this into a 10 o'clock at night meeting, and I think we're trying to avoid those.
No, I don't disagree.
Yep.
It was the expectation, and everyone's here, so I feel like we've sort of.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Anything else on E before we move on to fee schedule? Nothing. All right. Yeah, you're all free to go do whatever you want,
here, or it's there, or wherever you'd like to go.
Alrighty. Fee schedule.
Yeah.
You guys, I just didn't make it into it. This is it's the same thing you got last year, it's just from area towns. And some of that applies.
Thank you.
Some of that doesn't.
So, as you know, you, periodically you can adjust or
Yep.
apply fees, so this is what this is about. Alan's put together the fee schedule of what we charge now for what items, and he's suggesting different fees for different items, so.
This is as of August 2022?
Yes.
Alrighty. So do we want to, I think that maybe the best way to go through would just go through if you want to highlight places where you recommended changes and maybe give us a little info as to why you went with that number.
Yes.
And so if you want to just start right there at residential construction.
Yeah, so the first thing is under residential construction, all residential construction that adds square footage to a lot is billed at the residential structures rate. So before, you'll see some line out things. Some things like a garage after construction, if they build a garage after construction, it's at a 15 cent per square foot. That's just a ridiculous amount.
I remember you brought this up last year.
And sheds.
Yeah.
And that's, if they're adding on to square footage to their parcel, it really ought to be billed as new construction. That's what other towns do. And that's why I put that in there.
When do you want us to ask questions?
Whenever you want.
So is this definition of residential construction in the land use ordinance?
Yes. It's part of, and when you guys voted, when the town voted to put the fee structure in there, all the things that are within that list is on this.
Yeah, no, I just
Nothing
want to make
else
sure
is.
that we're using the same definition.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there's no, okay.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, because I could see if someone says, "Oh well, my garage isn't a residence; it's a garage." We're saying here that counts if whether you're attached or detached.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said something about sheds.
And anything that's over 200 square feet is going to be counted as new construction. If it's less than 200 square feet, they don't need a building permit. I make a note of it and give it to the tax assessor for her information. She may or may not add anything to their tax.
This particular thing that you're talking about right now, less than 200 square feet, and
Yes.
the fact that we just approved the accessory dwelling situation and that people may build tiny homes. I just wonder if you've given that any thought on the fact that that could be under 200 square feet and whether or not something should be different regarding that.
I haven't. The accessory, minimum size for accessory for the state law is 190,000 square feet. But if it's a tiny home, there's no.
190 square feet?
190 square feet. That's the minimum for an ADU. However, you can build a tiny house. A tiny house definition is under 400 square feet. So if it's
Yeah.
under 200 square feet, they would.
Does the ordinance specifically state something about under 200 square feet shed is that you don't live in? Do you
It
know?
says under 200 square feet.
Okay,
A structure under 200 square feet.
so I think that we
What
should look at that.
what about where would an occupancy permit come into play there? Isn't there an
If there is a dwelling.
Yeah, but if I think what you're getting at is, can someone build a 190 square foot building and then move into it without a building permit and live there?
No.
Is that what you're getting at?
Well, they
should-
can if it's under 200 square feet, right?
They should not be living in a shed if they don't have adequate accommodations, if they don't have waste, kitchen, or sleeping area.
Right, but if the footprint is under 200 square feet, we're not giving them a permit.
That's correct.
And tiny house is defined as under 400 square feet.
Yeah.
So what's the key? I mean, regardless of what someone should or shouldn't do, and I know what we should and shouldn't do is a very different definition from person to person. What's to keep someone from building a 190 square foot building and then living in it without a permit?
Nothing?
Yeah.
Septic.
They need to have
Yeah.
septic.
And so that's where I
So-
was going to ask is, in order to live someplace, do we need? I thought we had like a dwelling permit or something like that, or you had to like register that you live here somehow.
We don't have to discuss this down to
But-
the nitty gritty, but I do
Yeah.
think that this needs to be on our
Yeah.
radar, because I think this is a situation now that law has passed, that this is gonna come up.
Mhm. right? I
Yeah.
mean,
When I read miscellaneous structures used in conjunction with residential uses,
yeah.
does that include a residential use, or is it, I mean.
Yeah, because this doesn't say used as residential.
So,
Yeah, so that, I'm striking that out. I don't even want that part of the ordinance anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
Oh, it's not
That's-
stricken.
It's not
where?
stricken out here. Above
Just the bottom
occupancy
line.
permit fee.
yeah, so, yeah, that's, yeah, you're right, okay. So I was talking about the garages, barns, and other miscellaneous structures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's, yep, so miscellaneous structures.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So right there, miscellaneous structures used in construction is talking about if it's under 200 square feet, there is no fee right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we can definitely look at that and talk
Well,
about dwelling.
I'm not
stuff.
saying I want to charge people for a tool shed, but
Right.
what I'm getting at is we just want to, and not that we're thinking anyone's doing this, but Heather raises a really good point with, talk about affordable housing and stuff like that. We don't want to set up a situation where someone's building what might visually look like a shed as you drive by, but then you find out they've got their mother-in-law living in 150 square feet. My mother-in-law wouldn't live in 150 square feet.
Well, I mean,
but,
it's happening
it
right
could-
now.
could happen.
There are, I'm sure there are places that
Yeah.
it is happening. It is happening.
And you
It's
would
prob-
address it if you found.
I would. If someone was living in a shed, I'm going to address it. I'm gonna go and knock on the door and say, hey, I understand someone's living in your shed. Can I come and check this out?
Mhm.
They can tell me, nope, go fly a kite, and then I'll go fly a kite.
But why do we get to ask them if it's under 200 square feet? Is it because they didn't get an occupancy permit?
That was here before I got here.
Yeah.
That's just the way that you guys wanted it, under
But
200 square
regardless if
feet.
they're actually living in it, if they're building it to put on their property, that's ahead of, and then it's an after. I'm just saying, we don't have to beat this to death right now, but we do need to address this because
Mhm.
I see 2 locations in town that are building a tiny home right now.
Yeah.
That whether or not it's going to stay on the property or not, they're doing it, and
Mhm.
so they need a building permit. But it's probably under 200 square feet, so they don't.
And if it's something that they work on, if it's a hobby of theirs and it's movable, is that a structure for the site? Is that a structure for that parcel?
Well, that's
No,
my-
they
that's-
might move it around.
that's
That's
my
a
other-
big discussion.
That's a discussion we might need to save for later. Because my other point is,
Yeah.
if you're putting something on moon pads, and you can argue, oh well, I just got to slide a trailer on it and I can move it. You can't say it's a dwelling, even if so that might. That's probably something we need to put on a list to talk about
Yeah.
later, other than just assessing the fees here. But it's
Yeah.
I think it's a really good point to bring up.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, occupancy permit fee. Other towns charge that, and $50 is in the ballpark of what other towns charge. Lots of places require it. Banks do require occupancy permit, and sometimes I have to go back to the place if it has something significant that's not up to par. For example, I went to a house the other day and their hot water heater didn't have the piping the way it's supposed to be. That's a serious safety hazard. So I said, I need to come back. They said, can I take a picture? No. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna look at that. I'm sorry. But I have to come back, that's 2 trips to there. So that's why the occupancy permit fee.
So are you saying you're assessing that every time you're visiting?
When they say, hey, I'm all done building, can you come and check it for a final inspection? Come for a final inspection, and I usually talk to them on the phone. Do you have this? Is this done? Did you do this? You gotta do this. All the appliances connected, gas connected, all that stuff. All that stuff needs to be done. You go, all set? Yep, coming over.
Okay.
Yep.
And so in this instance, you show up, you've charged them $50 because they're having an inspection for an occupancy fee.
Yep.
They do not meet it, and now when they call you to come back, it's another $50?
No, I'm gonna charge them $50 for their occupancy fee. I'm gonna come back, but it's gonna cost $50, period.
Each
Just
time.
the one time. Just the
Oh,
one
I
time.
think
the
it
one
should be, this says per inspection, I think it should be both times.
Okay, yeah.
What, no,
Okay.
this is the
part-
way that we generate revenue to take the burden off the taxpayers' back. It needs
Okay.
to be every time you go out.
That I'm inclined to the per time because the expectation
Every
is,
time?
Yeah, the expectation is the contractors or the people building are building up to code, and I've heard of examples in the past where like something's wrong and then the person puts a piece of paper over the hole and tries to paint it and say, oh look, I fixed it. And it's just Where I'm concerned about is the time of the code enforcement officer being eaten up doing these return visits. There's not as much incentive in my mind to get your ducks in a row if you know it's just a one-time fee,
Gotcha.
even if the person has to come back 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
I'm open to discussion on that. I don't know if you have any feelings, Josh, on it.
That's just the way I thought it was written.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah, that's fine.
That's what was that?
Sorry.
So we'll say change that to per visit.
Yeah. Next one, down at the bottom of the page, I changed that to flood zone permit. What that is it's a floodplain permit, and if that has to happen, they have to build a foot above flood elevation. That's a lengthy process, and it's quite a permitting feat with the state. I have to go back 4 times just for that. That's just for elevation checks with the surveyor and marking the elevation and checking where the building is compared to the elevation mark. So that's 4 visits outside of any other visits at all. No other building permit, no other building inspections. That's just for flood permit. So right now, I don't charge, it says $50, but I go back 4 times for that one reason, just to check the flood elevations and where the building is.
But at this point, our resource protection district overlaps the FEMA floodplain map, so
they can't do that.
no one can build in the
Right.
floodplain.
All of it?
Permitted build in the floodplain
Okay.
currently, because one of the criteria for resource protection was
Okay.
the FEMA 100-year floodplain map.
Okay.
So unless you're using a different assessment for floodplain, I don't know if this
No.
is relevant.
Okay,
Moving
gotcha.
forward, I could be wrong.
Right.
But it might be worth just double checking.
Yeah, you're
that.
probably right.
So.
You probably are right. Okay. Next page. So right now, as it exists, the minimum charge for an electrical permit is $120. That is too much for some electrical visits. So I'd like to change it to 1 to 10 openings, meaning if they put an outlet in, if they put a new light fixture, if they run one circuit, if they do those kind of things, 1 each. But I have a minimum, and it used to be $75 is all we charged. And for that kind of visit, for me to come check their electrical stuff, $75 is adequate, because I can check a room full of outlets, not a problem. When it gets to be over that, then there's a bigger charge for it. So that's where it would be 8 cents a square foot, or a minimum of 120. So
Quick
whole
question
house.
there.
Yep.
8 cents per square foot. Someone's gonna say, "Well, I'm only putting 10 outlets in this half of the house. Why are you charging me for the entire square footage of the house?"
It's just a line.
And so, but I just want to make sure that 8 cents per square foot is for the entire house, even if all of the work is taking place in.
If
one
you're
half of
doing
the house.
11 openings,
Yeah.
we automatically go to that space. We're gonna measure
does-
that space. We're
does
gonna
it-
measure that space, and that's what we'll charge them,
Well,
is
what
8
I'm saying
cents.
to measure the space is, are you measuring the space that the openings are taking place on, or the entire square footage of the house for that 8 cents
I would
per
say
square foot?
the measurement of the space that they're doing the renovation in.
Mm-hmm.
Kitchen renovation, bathroom renovation, whatever that might be,
So
or the 2.
my only thought about that is that can get a little messy, because what if they're adding 2 to the kitchen on the west side of the house and 1 to the basement on the east side of the house, and then 4 in the living room? It just turns into, all right, are you gonna go room by room, or?
How would you propose doing it?
Well, that's what I'm just asking. Is so when it says 8 cents per square foot, minimum $120,
Yeah.
I read that as square foot of the entire house. So if you have a 2,000 square foot house and you're putting in 11 openings, it's 8 cents times 2,000 square feet.
Which
That's how I'm reading it.
Yeah.
Someone want to do that math?
Which is
for me?
what's that come out to for math?
2,000 square feet is $160.
So that's still reasonable.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that
So we
we
can-
spell out here. It's
Yep.
square foot of the dwelling.
Of whole house.
Yeah, and
of
then the
whole
next
house.
question is, do you include the attached garage or detached garage? And I'm not trying to be nitpicky here, but these are
Right.
questions that I know contractors
Mhm.
going to say is, well, the garage is detached, you know.
But you're not just looking at the actual outlet, you're also looking at the panel right?
No, I understand that, but I just think it's important that we lay out it accurately here and precisely. So, because it's like when he's gonna go look if you're adding breakers and then adding, wire throughout the house to get to whatever. I get that. I'm just making sure that we specify that 8 cents per square foot is per square foot of the entire building.
Whole structure being wired.
Yeah,
So if it's not going into the garage, we wouldn't include the garage.
assuming the garage is detached.
Or what if it's attached?
So that's where I think we
So
need to figure that out.
I can do that. I mean, I can make that determination when they call, because I want to be reasonable to them.
So do I.
It's what I want. It's why I want to get a $75 fee back, is
Yeah,
because
and-
$120 for a circuit is a lot of money.
Right, and so $75 for the fewer openings.
Yeah.
If a 2,000 square foot house works out to $160, and that's doing, over 10 openings, that seems fairly reasonable to
Yeah.
me. That's a pretty standard size house in Durham, 2,000 square feet.
Yeah. So 8 cents a square foot for the whole space being wired
Well, no, 8 cents per square foot for the dwelling.
for the dwelling.
Yeah, you're just saying how many
Okay.
square footage is this dwelling?
Okay.
So, after this last year, I bought a generator. I haven't gotten it installed yet. Am I paying $75 or $100?
Generator installed down below, electrical fixed rate, $100.
But it says gen install including switch 75 up above.
Where? Oh yeah, gen install including switch.
No, that's a typo. I'm sorry, that's not supposed
So
to be.
you want to remove gen install including
Meter
switch?
wait a minute. That 10 openings is all that's supposed to say up there. I'm sorry about that.
Strike all that other stuff out.
All that other stuff is not supposed to be up there. I'm sorry about
So
that.
strike, replace electrical service panel or meter socket,
Yes.
gen install switch.
Sorry
So
about
where is the replacing electrical service panel or meter socket?
The $100 is
Falls
like
in.
$100 fixed
Okay.
fee.
$100 fixed fee?
And how much would it cost me to do it before this goes into effect?
120.
Tomorrow.
No one complains about the 120, and I'm
Why
like,
are we reducing
wow.
it then?
I just,
Because it's not. I've checked with other towns and electricians, and
So-
I don't want to soak people.
So what it boils down to, with the generator installed, you're just putting in
got a good
a
reason for
large
my
plug
kids.
and one
Just making
breaker.
me happy.
So all the electrical work's happening right at the panel and going to your generator plug, as opposed to this big thing,
Yeah.
I'm happy. I mean, frankly, it's my excuse for my kid was
You
giving me
need
a
to
hard time
recruit
the other
yourself.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
if you're getting a generator installed soon.
So we're saying here, before any proposed changes, it would be $120 to do anything.
Anything.
And now
One
we're
circuit.
saying
I wanna
that
put an
it should
outlet
be
in.
more expensive to do the big jobs and maybe a little bit less expensive to do the small jobs that,
Yes.
electricians there for an hour or two.
And as when people come to me and they see that, when I look at that, and they're okay with me saying, and I try to do that as best I can. I try to accommodate.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting in one outlet. Damn, that's $120. I'm sorry. Can't you do more? Can you lump anything else in there? Is there anything else you want to add? Because you can put it under this permit. Okay. So are we down to the electrical stuff, or you want?
Replace electrical service panel, meter sockets 100, install emergency generator to include switches 100. 1 to 10 openings is 75. Over 10 openings, 8 cents per square foot of the structure.
Yeah.
So an example would be $160 for a 2,000 square foot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next part is road association fees. Town road entrance permit for the road commissioner, $125. Currently, there's nothing. There's no fee for that.
There
And
definitely needs to be.
He needs to go out and look at where he needs to check distances, site distances, see what needs for a culvert.
Yeah, so I think fees like this are important because, we have our town employees who have a set of services that you are all providing, but when there's an incurred, not regular part of their job and that occurs extra time, that's where I think that this is important, because I think you had brought that up in the past, Heather. It's like, this isn't something we do all the time, but we're doing it just for this one person,
Yeah.
for this one entity, you know, so.
And a bigger parcel could have, they could say, I want three openings here at different times.
So I would like to address here what happens when people create an entrance without a permit. I think there should be a fine for that.
Well,
And-
double permit fee, double permit if they do work before permitted.
And then also when a parcel of land is, they're logging, and then down the road they didn't get a driveway permit for that or an entrance permit for that, correct?
Are we talking about a state road?
I'm talking about anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, so when you're getting when you're gonna log, if you're gonna do it, you just file for forest
Temporary.
operation notification, and you can access it for logging. But I get what you're saying is that sometimes what people are doing
left there.
is they're establishing a road for the purpose of logging, and then they're saying, oh, I'm now gonna put my house lot in there or create a road out of this. And so I think that is a change of use in my mind, and so there's a long history of people discussing someone doing something with logging and then being like, oh, well, I happen to have a road here. And
So I think that I want to know if it's legal, first of all, that when they go for their permit for logging, that we also have an access permit that they have to get. And then if they do, great, because eventually, and maybe it doesn't always happen, but it happens a lot, that they end up establishing that as their road or driveway, and sight lines haven't been seen, and all of the things that go along with associating the safety of an entry point.
So I don't believe as a municipality we can put in an ordinance related to issuing of logging permits. I don't think so.
Because we don't,
Not the logging
state-
permit, the access to the lot.
I think
off the
that's
road.
part of the permit. I believe that comes as a part
So-
of their permit.
Yeah, I think
With
that
the- with the
I
Department
think
of
that that's exempt for the purpose of forestry, but what you're getting at is someone puts in a road to access for logging, and then 2 years later they're like, this is gonna be my road to access my property, and we're saying, well, okay, you're putting it in there, it's a $125 fee, but we're saying, hey, that road wouldn't have been able to be permitted as an access road, correct? Because of its location?
And after, I should check with the Forest Service about that, about any requirement to take that down, to remove that.
Well, you can't remove the opening that you just created to get in and out. Like, I mean, it's not like you're gonna put trees back in the opening.
Right, but the opening I'm thinking of, they can certainly remove the gravel.
Yeah, and so I'm fine with that gravel or whatever they're saying, but what I'm saying is if you're doing something for the express purpose of logging, and then later on you want to use it for something else, you have to treat your road application as if that road doesn't exist. If it exists and you are able to meet all the other requirements of a road, sure, that's fine. But you can't say, if you put the road in one spot and it's too close because of a buffering reason or whatever, you can't say, oh, so you're going to make me put a new road right next to it? It's like, the answer is it's yes. You can't use the logging as an excuse to set yourself up for a non-compliant road in 3 years. That's how I feel.
It's a loophole and they're taking advantage of it.
So anywhere that happens to, we can call up the DOT and we can ask them if there's a road permit pulled. And they don't even find people that put a road in on a state road and get caught. The state will just allow them to get a permit and there's no cost for it. They just get it. And they apply for the permit and now they have a permit.
Well, we can, as a municipality, hold people to a higher standard. Our resource protection is at a higher standard than the state level.
I don't know about that on a state road though.
Okay.
Because I don't have anything
We
to
don't have
do with
jurisdiction on.
a state road.
It doesn't, so if that's the process for a state road, then that's fine, but on our roads, it's happening, it's happening, and it's not
So
appropriate.
yeah, this fee is a town road entrance permit.
Right.
Yeah.
So like if this is on Swamp Road or something like that, that's the fee. But if someone's trying to put a road on 125, we don't,
Well,
we,
125 is state.
yeah, I'm saying,
Yeah.
but if someone's
Oh,
trying to put a
oh,
road
oh.
on 125, the town road entrance doesn't apply, because that's a state thing.
Right.
And so, but I do think you're bringing an important point, is that if someone is accessing a town road for the purpose of logging, and then after that logging, they're utilizing that as their road, that road was access point was only created for logging, and it's only exempt because it's being used for logging. So you're bringing in your low boys and your feller buncher and your skidder and stuff like that, that's fine. But if someone's now utilizing that road as a road, that's an unpermitted road if it's in town
So
access.
Jerry can talk to Calvin about it, the road commissioner.
Yeah, but I just do think we need
Yeah.
to think about that,
Yeah.
because that's a workaround to get road access
Right.
without a permit, and I think everyone should be held to the same standard.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
Can I ask a question, since you brought up the after the fact permit fees? That applies to all of the
Anything
permits,
on
right? Not just,
Right, yeah.
but the after the fact permit fee also is assuming that the activity meets the standards of the permit, correct?
They have
Because-
to meet the
they
permit.
have to meet.
Yeah, because what I just want to make sure is you can't put
Yeah.
in a road that doesn't meet the
Right.
standards and then say, whatever, it's only $250, I'll pay
Right.
the fee.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Correct.
just want to make sure that's.
Yeah. Assigning E91 address, 125. So when someone comes in and gets a new house, builds a new house, they need an address. And I have to go out and measure the road distance, measure in to where it is, the distances between the houses, go on the website. I have to fill out forms for the sheriff's department, the fire department, the post office, the tax assessor, myself, the town, and get those to those people. So
There hasn't been a fee for that?
there has not been a fee for that.
Yeah, I remember you brought this up last year, and that was part of the reason why we
It's-
realized we need to assess fees.
And sometimes it's a long road. I gotta go a long ways.
Well, I mean, my thinking is that 125 is not gonna cover your expenses.
It's general,
Your
it's,
time.
for the ones that are quick, sure. For the ones that I go and do and it takes 30 to 40 minutes, that's great, but they don't know to take that.
On this
So
fee
it's gonna
compar-
even out.
On this fee comparison, am I not seeing what the other municipalities are charging here for?
I don't know that it's on that list.
Okay, that's
So
fine. I
we
just
may
wanna make sure
not
I'm
have
not
got
seeing.
that.
I mean,
How did you arrive at that number?
Thought about my hours and my salary.
so you just kind of figured whatever it takes you on average to do one of those,
Yep.
your rate. That's
Some take
perfect.
more than
Yeah,
that, some
that
take
works.
less than that.
Yep.
Private road sign fee, right now we charge $126. That covers the cost of the sign itself. That's not okay. So there's a post, there's installation of it, and that's where the $245 is. I talked to Calvin about that, $245 per sign. That will include a surcharge for lost or damaged signs.
So in other words, right now when someone puts up a private road, it costs us money.
No,
For a private
we,
roadside, 'cause
well,
you're
it,
charging for the
we
sign.
get the money for the sign only, 126, that's what the sign
But then we
costs.
gotta go get the pole and then
And we
put
do the
time
pole and put it up and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No.
Yeah. So,
Can we talk about some of the fees that aren't being changed here?
yes.
in. Yes, please.
So,
Yeah. And some of them are lined through, just so you know. Some things, like temporary structures, I never use that. There are no temporary structures. I just don't do a temporary, no one's asked for that, and I've been here 2 years.
Where are you? I don't see
On the
it.
front page, temporary structures just has a line out.
Line through some of these line throughs.
Do you think that was intended for like the canopy, the storage canopy
I want those add square footage, and those should be permitted because I want to make sure
Well-
that those are connected. If those
So-
blow away and they're not connected, they're going to go into somebody's.
So-
So to me, that's what that is, and maybe that should
I
still
think
require that charge.
One thing, I think saying that the canopies add square footage is something we need to talk about, cause like if someone puts a canopy up in their yard, that they put,
You talking about a garage, temporary garage?
yeah, I'm talking about like a metal pole canopy that you put up and take down, or
Canvas top or something.
canvas top. When you say canopy, that's what I'm thinking you're
Other
saying.
towns charge for that.
So they're
They charge
charging
square
as a
footage.
square footage for their structure?
Yeah.
Donna has that on our list, that
Absolutely.
when we do the reval, it's one of the things that they should.
Yeah, well, I'm also
Yeah.
thinking of like Shelter Logics. people put them up and they put the tractor under there or whatever,
Yep.
but it's just a tent with a zipper.
I hope it's secured. And if they get, the point of it is, if they get a permit, I'm coming to inspect it. This isn't secured. You need to secure this.
But when would you apply for a permit to put up a shelter logic that's 10 foot by 15 feet?
If it's less than 200 square feet, you don't need to.
Right.
But if it's more than that, you should. And they do. People call and ask.
Yeah, something about that's not sitting super.
Sorry, Josh, I interrupted. What
No,
one were
you're
you
fine.
referring to?
So my question, and I had I guess I had assumed, which was bad, but then looking at the fee comparison, we're not charging for notices on planning board issues to the abutters?
Yeah, we do. Yes,
It's
we
not,
do.
it's, okay. It's not listed here, I'm looking over here and it's listed, but if we are, then my other question is for the Board of Appeals. It says $70 and that covers the cost of the legal ads.
I already crossed that out and want that to be $200.
Yeah, it's not gonna cover it.
So,
On that one in particular, I think that the.
No, it says plus.
Is tasked to,
The-
you know,
Well, it says that for the Board of Appeals, but it doesn't say that for the planning, anything on the planning board, which is why I asked.
Gotcha.
That was a distinction I noticed.
So the
So
legal,
if you're charging it, I don't know if you're allowed to charge it, and that is something that I think needs to be clarified.
I don't have it, we can look, but I think it's in the ordinance that they have to, they being the developer, is responsible for it, because they bring in the little green cards and all that
Right,
stuff.
I mean, I think it is too, but I don't think it's clear in this, and
okay.
yeah, we definitely want to get it on this, because once we get these all set up, this should live on the website so people can see what the fees are.
Yes, the $70 covers legal ads. That does cover. They're the little teeny things, and it covers those. It covers those. Yeah, it's like because we've done it several times, and there's like $35.
What?
Yeah,
They would know more than me.
yeah. And then the plus the butter notifications is where they pay for the notifications
Yeah.
for the appeals board, but the planning board doesn't say that.
Can we go line by line and then come back? Because I have a whole list of things that aren't on here that I'd
Yeah.
like to put on the
I think
list.
we have a lot of good questions. I think Josh and Heather just brought
Yeah.
both of them, but maybe we should just kind of get back here,
Okay.
make sure we're good with the road fees, and then move through. Even if you haven't written
Yeah.
X'd anything out, then go reinspection, and then go after fact permit, so we can make sure we are.
Yeah, you guys
Covering
can
it all.
change whatever
Does
you
that work
want
for
too.
you?
By the way.
Yeah, so back to, we're still at the road associated fees then. I think we need to do a little work on forestry access getting converted. And so I think that town road entrance permits or entrance conversions should be put in there somewhere.
A separate line.
Yeah, I mean, I just understanding what Heather is saying is that if someone harvests their woodlot and then uses it as a road, they're now creating a road without a permit. And that harvest access point might be different than what is actually allowed for road access. Do you follow what I'm saying?
It's not always even that. Like, I know that when there was a piece of property that was bought down the road, they created access before they came before the planning board and turned it into a borrow pit, and they had access. And when I brought it up to the planning board, the answer was that you can't deny someone access to their lot. Okay, but we can still charge them for it.
Mm-hmm.
Or fine them for creating it before
And
coming
so,
before the town to get a permit for it.
and so this might be important to check with the Maine Forest Service because, like, for example, if you clear a lot for forestry, that's fine. You can clear cut it. But you can't then turn it into a subdivision the next year. There's a 5-year waiting period before that you can then change use. And so it's kind of the same thing with roads here. If you clear access for your logging truck, that's all fine and dandy. I mean, think about it. If you have a lot that doesn't have enough road frontage to put in a building or access or whatever, if you only have a narrow access point, you can go in and harvest it. That's fine. But we're just going to make sure that people aren't using their forestry activities to get a road. And maybe there's some sort of language that the Maine Forest Service has saying, you know, this can't be used as a road or whatever.
But you don't want to add a fee for that because
I
if
do,
you
I
have,
wanna add a
if you,
fine for it.
if you have a, okay, fine.
Well, no, I'm saying that if you are creating an access point, no matter how you to be used on your property outside of forest management or farm management or whatever, you have to pay the road access fee. And so if you created that access because you have a 100-acre woodlot and then you just picked the middle and you cut a path and you brought your equipment in, that can't turn into a road for your property access without the proper access fee, because the forest management has ended. You're now using it for something different. We're saying that the forestry is exempt, but if you're now using that as a driveway to get into your woodlot, you've put in a road, and we need to assess the fee there. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
you've put in a borrow pit, or you've put in on 50 feet of road frontage, your new road, which now gives you the 300 feet that you need to start creating lots.
So we want forestry, I want forestry to be exempt like it is, but only while it's being used for forestry. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think we might have to address this a little further. You following me, Jerry? You look pensive.
I'm just playing it out, you know, I mean, if they're creating a lot, I mean, if they're creating an access to clear a lot.
Well, there's a difference between clearing, so if you're hiring a forestry company to say, like, you know, for example, the Swamp Road lot that came out today, someone had that cleared, put in their house lot. It was woods, and then they cleared it. And so they got a road access permit when they did that, they said that. Because they were clearing that for the express purpose of building and putting an access point. What you don't want is that if someone says, I own a 100-acre woodlot, I'm gonna have my harvest done to make some money off of the timber, and then the next year you're saying, I wanna put a house in there for my kid, we'll just have them drive in along the road that the logging truck used. They didn't get a permit for the road to be used as lot access, they just put, their only permit they got was for forest management, and that was to the state. So now they're using it for something other than forestry, whether it's to access a pit that they wanna put back there or whatever. So there's a difference between lot clearing to clear a lot to build, and forest management to have a harvest to make some money. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, and if they're gonna build in there using that access point that was only approved to harvest wood, the codes office is gonna know about it, and then that's the time.
But one thing, what we're
When he's issuing
seeing,
the permits,
Right.
he's gotta
But one
do
thing-
He's gonna
this.
know, he's gonna say, look, you,
but to Heather's point, one thing what we're seeing is that some people are having the harvest done, and they're building a road, and then whether they have a road permit or not, they're now putting a gate, and now they're using that as their road that they're accessing their property, which 100% fine, you can access your property. But that, if that road wasn't permitted as road access, and that road was just created to the forest management, you gotta have that permit because you're now got a road that you're intending on using on the public right of way.
So how does that come up? Because they won't come to and apply for anything.
That's why there needs to be a fine that makes it not worth their while to do it. And if they do it, then at least we collect the fine for it happening.
That's the after the fact permit.
Mm-hmm. Because the thing is like, let's be honest, with a mechanized harvest, when you gotta bring in a 25-ton piece of equipment,
Right.
and they're
You
driving an
need that.
18-wheeler, they're putting in a road for the forest management. Now, if this is an absentee landowner who's never looking at their woodlot, and they're getting their stumpage check, and then 25 years from now they come back and the road's all grown in and whatever, that's one thing. But if they're vocalizing to their forester, hey, make this road heavy duty because I want to use it as an access road after you're done managing, that's fine, but they need the permit because that's now no longer just an access road for forestry. It's a road that they're using to access their lot. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes. So that
And
would
so-
just be a call.
If you drive by and you see a road with a gate on it and someone driving in and out, and you come back to the office and realize that there's no one ever applied for a road permit there, but they had a harvest done last year, that's where it's like, hey, you're got a road without a permitted, you got a non-permitted road access.
So that would be a call to the road commissioner or myself.
Mm-hmm.
And if it goes to Calvin, he should check with me because I get the forestry notifications.
Mm-hmm.
And I can let him know wherever. Actually, that's all confidential now. They don't even tell us where. We have to call and
Yeah, I get
and
that.
find out. But then we could find them.
But what I'm getting at
we
is-
could do a double fee, because they didn't get a permit,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
if they
there.
continue to use it as
And as long as that access road meets the standards of an access
Right.
road for that purpose outside of forestry.
Right.
So you have like the young couple who was here today, they did everything right. They got a road permit and they got it cleared.
Yeah.
From the naked eye, I drive by that spot every day. I said, oh, someone did a little bit of harvesting, but it's probably a house lot, whatever. But now you have other spots in town where there's been some great forestry done, and you have these beautiful roads left behind. If the person's using that for more than just forestry at this point, it's now a road that needs to be charged and access. We have to charge that town road entrance permit because they have a entrance.
Right.
And it needs to meet the standards. And if they're using it without getting that, it's a double fee, so.
And they're also doing it to create road frontage,
Mm-hmm.
to create lots, because they only have 50 feet in one particular instance.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about it later.
So we just wanna make sure people aren't abusing forestry exemptions to the means to
Right.
get around our permitting.
Yeah.
Especially because then something happens later on down the line and we have all this time that's tied up with your time
Mhm.
and we're thinking about, assessing fees to help build some of that revenue back.
Mhm.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Do you issue E911 addresses only when the house is up or when the driveway goes in?
It depends on the person. Sometimes they want a 911 address when, as soon as they start building in case someone gets hurt on the site.
I was just thinking out loud, so they're not building in there, but they're using it for access, but somebody gets hurt in there, but there's no address to that road, how do they find it?
Well, that's another important
That's
consideration,
another-
because if you had the harvest done, that's fine. But now if you're using it to go putt around your woodlot, you're driving your truck in and out, and then you keel over having a heart attack, and you're saying, hey, I'm on that unlicensed road on Swamp Road, please come get me.
My concern also is that creating an access that hasn't had sight lines done. And now that's access where it could be really dangerous.
I'd like to think that the Forest Service knows about that, because, I mean, it's a good point, because if they put a road in on a curve and they're pulling out slowly with 18-wheelers with logs, that's an issue.
I don't think that in the FON, the Forest Operation Notification, that they're saying, what's your site access for getting in and out of there?
I don't
And
either.
because we have in Durham had issues in the past where
Yeah.
people T-bone in the back of a piece of logging equipment.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of times those loggers or foresters will put up road front signage to say trucks entering or whatever, but that's a problem, but it's a temporary one. The crew's in there for a week or two. But now if you got that in a bad spot and it's turning into your permanent access and I'm gonna go store my boat over there, that's now being used as a road
regular
entrance. And
dangerous
the thing about
access.
forestry as well, forestry is a temporary impact. This is a permanent road, and so that's the difference there. But sometimes you're putting in a permanent road when you're doing that forest management. You can have them both, but you have to pay for the road.
Mhm.
Sounds
And
like
have
a
a second.
conversation for the state and the legislature to make a fix.
Right.
Well, at least for us, if someone's using it for non-forest
Yeah.
management,
Yeah.
it's an entrance fee.
Mhm.
Reinspection fees, anyone have any questions about that?
That's normal.
This
Yep.
is
No
for,
change.
you have this here listed specifically under road associated fees.
Nope.
No,
Nope,
reinspection
it's-
fee is
it's-
separate.
It's
Re-
underlined, it just looks
Okay.
bigger, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So first, and second, what about third? Does it continue to increase or does it stay the same?
It doesn't continue to increase. And
Well,
it does,
that's
and
why I'm asking
after,
because-
after I charged 100, they're like,
Yeah, but no, I
It's-
mean, I know,
right.
I don't know if it's worth saying, and it's an additional
sure.
$50 on top of the second fee per every visit. So the third visit is $150, another $150 for a fourth visit. I'm not saying we're gonna get there, but I'm just saying is,
Sure.
I wanna make sure
Yeah.
where we can be clear, we're clear, so then you're not coming to us and saying, hey, I think I'll do 4 re-inspections, what do
Yeah.
I charge them? Because if you're paying the second one, and you're not gonna get charged for the
Right.
third or fourth, why not just keep having you come back? Because you already paid the $100, it's like putting in one outlet, might as well put in 10.
So $50 extra after each,
Mhm.
after the second. So I can think of a way to.
Yeah, just word it in a way that
Word it,
every
yeah.
visit is incurring a fee. So it could be $150 for the third visit and an additional 100 and
Yeah.
150 for every visit after that.
Yeah.
Probably never going to charge it, but it's there.
Right.
After the fact permits, double permit fee sounds good to folks.
Yep.
Planning board, all right. And Mr. Talbot, if you have any input on planning board fees.
George, and he's good, he's worked with
Yeah.
fellows, and I think he's good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you had anything you want to say, feel free to come up and whatever.
I
Those-
would
I
just
think
like
they're
it to
low,
say
You think
that
they're low?
I do. but-
notification is is, there's an additional notification fee.
There's a fee charged for
I
notifications
just
for
think it
planning.
should be, yeah, I think it should be in there.
Okay,
Mhm.
yep.
Just because when I look at this, I mean, I think it's in the land use ordinance, but I think that needs to be put here, otherwise we're gonna run into problems.
So you wanna just add just to conditional use, you wanna add plus notification fees?
Well, no, just
No,
a line
everyone-
underneath,
Oh.
notification fee to abutters.
Okay,
And just make sure that this page is saying whatever the land use ordinance is saying. And so, we've made enough edits here at this point. I'm not comfortable voting to approve all
Yeah,
this
yeah,
tonight. I wanna see edits and have them come back to us.
Oh, I haven't even gotten
Right,
started.
well, that's what I'm saying, is like, so make your notes, but we'll have to take another look at this, but just make sure we're square that.
You might wanna check with your, I think the developer's doing it.
Yeah.
So you may not, but.
We just wanna make sure we have it on
I
here
think
too.
you're right, it is in the land use ordinance, but when you look at this is supposed to, be, well, one place shop to
one-stop
look
shop,
at
yeah.
what's there,
Yeah,
and
see, on the
it's not, and,
developer's, pays for or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I just think it needs to be there.
To Mr. Talbot's point here, are these fees low? Conditional use, preliminary subdivision, peer review escrow, like, my thought with that peer review escrow, $250 a lot, consultants eat up a lot of money.
If we run out, if the town runs out, they invoice them for
Mm-hmm.
the additional.
Yeah, and
But-
are you finding you're running out often on these peer reviews?
All depends on the developer.
Yeah.
A 13 lot house subdivision at this rate is $3,250 for escrow. I don't think it's enough.
One of the subdivision, we put like 12 grand in there, of their money.
I get it that they have to
I mean-
replace it, but I think that part of this is that they're profiting off developing in Durham substantially, and they should be able to come to the table with the financial means, which I know that we verify and, the whole bit, but I don't think that there should ever be a situation where we're, like what happened down here.
So, are you talking just about the peer review escrow account right now?
The 3,250 is the peer review escrow account. That's what I'm saying, if it's a 13 lot subdivision, and I
And
don't
if
think
they're,
that's nearly enough.
but if we're using over that, they get invoiced, the consultant gets
I'd have
invoiced.
to check with George, cause I mean.
They do.
Dick
When they
like
get
12
low,
grand.
So in other words, it sounds like this escrow account is designed to put cash up front to us. And so if we have to hire a peer review, we can manage cash flow. But then the consultant comes through and says, we're gonna blow through all this money. And we'll say, all right, well, you're invoicing the developer.
And again, I think that needs to be clear in here, because otherwise I'm reading this and you're saying it's $250
It's
per
done.
lot, and that's,
Mhm.
that's what I'd be telling you.
And I understand that what we're doing is covering our peer review expenses, but to Josh and Heather's point, this document will exist on the website, not just for the developers, but for people. So when I read this, I went, $250 a lot, that's not a lot of money if you get in some serious delineations, or you've got in some serious consulting work. Now that I'm comfortable knowing that $250 is just the beginning, and they're still getting invoiced for it, it's not costing us money. But that should just be, it should say, peer review, escrow, $250 per lot, plus invoice directly for all expenses over the escrow account. We should put that line in there, or something like that.
I think that line should be higher.
I don't think it
It covers the
really
cost.
matters. One
That's
second,
not one that
one second. I don't think it matters a ton because they're still paying it. So this is just starting off saying $3,200 upfront for a 13 unit lot. But if we go over that, you're paying it anyways. So this is just the upfront cash on hand, so we have something to give the contractor at the beginning of having them come out there. So they're still paying it.
No, I understand that, I just still don't think it's enough.
Could we say, not depleted, but when it gets to a certain level, replenished?
Mm.
So when it gets to $2,000 or something
Or
like that.
50% or whatever. I mean, if you feel like it should be higher, I'd love to hear like why you think it should be hired to have that.
Because
upfront,
I don't think there's any situation where we're hiring a consultant to come in, and I get that we're still gonna bill them, but I don't think there's any situation where we're gonna only spend $3,200 and to have them come out or to not finish or, you know, whatever. I just don't think that any profitable situation should be on the backs of the
I understand what you're
taxpayers
saying.
in any capacity,
So-
even if it's just in the meantime.
But this money's returned if it's not used.
Right.
And so this seems to me almost punitive. Because I think we should be charging what's
For the service.
reasonable for the services.
Well,
And what that is. If it's $250, that's fine. If it's $500 a lot, that's what we should be doing.
Well, they're
if
saying
we're
it's
charging,
12,000
no, I'm
for
saying
the
if
last
we're
one.
charging what's reasonable for the services, consultants, I mean, their technicians holding the GPS are going to be charging $125 an hour. And so my only question is, you know, if we're anticipating we want to set aside a few hours for the consulting fee for each lot, that $250 isn't what's reasonable for that service. You know, my next question is, we're invoicing them if they go over that. So if we start invoicing them, is that a one-time invoice, then a change order and another time invoice? And what type of time commitment does that take our front office staff?
Exactly.
Because if it's easier to have a large escrow account up front that's going to cover all expenses, so we don't have to have a town clerk sending and managing multiple invoices and buying up all that time, that's giving them the time to do their day job. And so if we're expecting it's always going to run 12 grand, or we're expecting it's averaging $1,000 a lot, I'd rather see that escrow account be that, and so we're not going into a situation where every single development we're invoicing additionally. I'll just have you come on up,
Okay. Yeah,
John, if
because-
we're gonna be part of this, so we can have it on the. But I get what you're saying. It's like if we know it's gonna be 12 grand.
Right, because when we're saying that we're refunding this, right, if it doesn't get used, okay, great, but if it does get used, staff time is also involved in that, and I don't think anything should be subsidized on the backs of the taxpayers.
Because that's the point I was getting at, is if we have to have a town clerk do an invoice that we're not getting paid for, and it's taking out of their daily time budget, that's a cost. And the developer's not paying for that, because now we're invoicing that consultant 2 or 3 times to get the rest of the money.
So then shouldn't we word, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's right.
But shouldn't this be worded then that the developer contracts with the town peer review, I don't know what to call, peer review person, and so that they're getting billed directly and the town is taken out of that?
No. They're working on behalf of the town to check the developer's work, so we don't want to give the developer the opportunity to say, I'm going to have the peer review done on my work by someone that I'm working with directly. It's important that the consultant's working, whether it's Goral, Palmer, whoever is working on the behalf of us, checking to say that the developer's doing the correct work. So we do need to have that ownership. My only other thought, to what you're getting to, is, do we institute a 10% administrative fee if it goes over that? So if someone at the front office is now going to have to take the time to send out an invoice for $13,000, that's an unexpected cost that the developer's asking us to do for them for free. Whereas in my consulting background, there wasn't a dang thing we did for free. We charge you an extra 5% for printing. We charge 10% for shipping and handling. I just don't want anything that has to do with a permit application to cost any time from a town employee without compensation.
So, I don't know, let John speak. So, in the 22 months that I've been here, I've been involved with Wingate and
Mhm.
Hickory. They both had escrow accounts,
Mhm.
right? I don't know how the money got derived or the amount, but there was significant money in an escrow account with our
Mhm.
bank. And how it works is when we send somebody out there from the consultant firm to do a check, the consultant firm sends us an invoice and we pay it just like we do our regular bills.
Mhm.
We don't write invoices to consultants.
No.
So
It's
they
okay.
invoice us,
Yes.
and now we're paying it, but if it's more than the escrow account,
It's not, I haven't ran into that situation.
So let me ask that question. If
Right.
it's more than, if there's no money in the escrow account, we're not sending them out there and all work stops. That's a simple fix to this issue, right?
Well, I think
And
we,
that requires somebody paying attention to the escrow account, but it also means that there's not gonna be a bill to the town that somebody else should be paying.
So I had emailed George the other day and told him that the escrow account was getting low. But in our ordinance, we're not allowed to replenish it.
until we've depleted it.
I don't.
So then we get to a position where we
the
pay
wording
for the
isn't
service.
there.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
word, so it's, yeah. the
So
wording-
we pay
so
for
a
the
lot of what
services.
So a lot of what we wanna do, and I know there's a lot of what we wanna do,
Mhm.
but you can't do it unless it's in the ordinance.
Mhm.
You
Well,
have
it
to have
says
in
the
But-
select
but
board shall
so-
establish fees for all permits where permit fees have not been specified within this ordinance, but the town performs services required for its administration, right there.
Yeah. And so that's where I think we're getting at is, right now what you're saying is that if you're saying, oh, this fee's low, there's nothing we can do about it till it hits zero, and then we're telling the contractor, hey, you can't do any more peer review until we have the we have the escrow account replenished.
That's what I.
And then
was-
how do you go about saying how much it gets replenished in? Do you say, hey, can you give us a rough idea of how much money?
I don't
it's
know,
gonna-
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll wait
I
my
don't know,
turn.
I'll have to ask, I mean, I asked George these questions, cause I keep an eye on the accounts.
Yeah.
I saw that it was going down, so I wanted them to know, but I said, look, you know, you're gonna have more inspections out there, and you're running out of money.
So we do it as part of this, and it's covered by the select board shall establish fees for all permits where
Yeah.
permit fees have not been specified within this ordinance, but the town performs services required for its administration.
Right,
Yeah.
but those are permit fees, I'm not sure that's the same thing.
So
as
but
establishment
what I'm
of
getting
escrow.
at is in terms of the time, that we can increase that permit fee to accommodate for that.
If I may,
Yeah,
the
sure.
first thing I would do is I ask George, who's got years of experience. I
Right.
know, I know he's talked to these guys about that. But I do want to clear up maybe something on what the peer review's doing. They're not going to the field. What they're doing is they're taking a set of engineering from a certified professional engineer or a wetland specialist or whatever, and looking at it and that it is a quality.
But you can't review wetland delineation without going to the field.
They go to the field.
Yeah, they go.
Oh, they
They've
do,
been
okay, I'm sorry.
absolutely go to the
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
Yeah.
If they're not going to the field, they owe us some explaining.
But I don't think the fees, I think the fees have covered most of it. And it's, if not every project has a wetlands fee, I don't think it has been a problem. But George has got, for 4, 5, 6 years. The escrow fee is noted, it doesn't say what the fee is, but it does speak to a specific. And if you need to raise the fee to some reasonable number, that doesn't bother me in the least. The town will get the money back, or, if they don't, there's no
Yeah.
approval.
But what I don't want to get into is a situation where for the first time ever, we've drained the escrow account, we don't know how to proceed.
Right, if you add that line, when the escrow account is depleted, it is renewed somehow. If you do that
I
in the
mean-
fee structure, that's in the fee structure.
So,
It's
In a
part of the ordinance.
if we're talking about in a perfect world, when you're making a budget, you budget for what you need. And so we budget in a way that that escrow account is designed to be a reasonable expense, and we would not expect under reasonable circumstances to have to ask for more money. So if the consultant has to submit a change order because it becomes very confusing or there becomes an unexpected workload, that's fine. But I don't want us to say, well, we're going to start low because we can always ask for more money. It's like we need to start for the expected cost. Right now, it sounds like we haven't exceeded that expected cost on things, but we're running into a situation where we might be, and we don't have guidance on how you do that. Because if it was after the escrow account is depleted, they invoice us, they continue the work that needs to be done. They invoice us. That's not what's happening. So we either need to increase the amount, the lot fee to make sure that we're not running into situations. So 99% of the time, we're not running into a situation where we need more money, or the ordinance needs to say or the fee structure needs to say something about when the escrow account is depleted to less than 25%, you have to put in additional $250 per lot or something like that.
Plus an administrative fee.
But that's where
I have an administrative fee on everything.
I
have
think,
a lot
yeah,
to add to
and that's
this.
where I think that the administrative fee is important, because if you think about it from what I hear from just a random person in the public, anytime a developer is coming in, much like if you're being asked to put up a new 911 thing, we're telling the individual person, the young couple who wants a home, that they have to pay extra to do that. But if you're a developer and you're having the front office staff handle all this administration, you're not paying for that unless that's being captured in the fee, and I don't think it is being captured in the fee.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I think
We need to do.
I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill when the town is the one sending out these peer reviewers, and Jerry is watching what's in this escrow account, and when it gets low, he's gonna instruct George or John or whoever not to send them out until there's more money in.
But
So
that's an issue because that interrupts workflow. And we have a super busy planning board who's already, it's like now, okay, well, we were gonna talk about this next meeting, but we had to stop and wait for the escrow fee to get rebooted. That took a week and a half, and now they didn't get out there to do the review. And, oh, look, it's now fall time, and they can't really do an accurate wetland delineation review. So now we have to worry about that. It's just, it slows it down.
I would tend to agree with Josh. It is not, I don't have George's experience, so, I mean, I would just say, you know, is this a problem? How do we do it? I mean, don't pay your taxes, you know, don't waste your time coming here, you know, and somebody just recently paid their taxes, so.
What are you talking about?
Well, you know, we have mechanisms to make people pay, I guess is what I'm saying, so.
Well, it sounds, it sounds like we don't know the mechanism right now to replenish the escrow account.
it's to not do
Right.
the work.
But
If
the
there's
work-
no money in the account, the work
But we
doesn't
don't-
get done.
But we don't want that to happen.
Right, but we need the work to get done.
Well, and that's why the developer's gonna pay it.
When, right.
But Jerry's saying he doesn't have an example of what to do when that escrow account is depleted.
But what he's done is say, we need to replenish it, which addresses the situation.
But what rate do we replenish it at, and how?
And I think that's a.
No, that's the question there, because if you go to the developer and saying, you need to replenish that at $250 per lot, or they're gonna say, well, you shouldn't take another $3,200 to get it done, why don't you just invoice us? But we might have to carry that cash flow, because we have to pay the developer to get up front, or invoice time. I just don't think the answer is, well, just stop and then figure it out.
We need to require a minimum balance, and when he hits the minimum balance, we need a replenish of $3,000.
Or
whatever it
I
needs to
think
be.
that we should either just increase the escrow fund so we don't have to worry about this in the vast majority of things, or say that when the escrow account is depleted to 10%, it needs to be replenished at the $250 per lot mark within a certain time frame.
I think we should move on because I don't think this number is gonna get determined tonight, and I think that we can
But
all
it's a
think
good-
about it
We need to think about this.
and how to word it and what to do. To
Yeah.
cover all of the things that we've all just brought up, but I would like to move on,
All right.
please.
So that's just the escrow discussion there. Conditional use, preliminary subdivision for over 3 lots and under 3 lots. Is everyone happy with that number?
I'm not, so that's the other thing, is that like, I have different numbers for a lot of these things, and I haven't been sharing that as we've been going, cause I was letting him get through it. I don't know if that's how if we just keep going, and then I make all of the suggestions that I have at the end
I mean, I
for
think
number changes.
what we're getting at here is, and when we think about our rules around our meeting time, it's 8:45. And I think we still have a lot of work to do to discuss here, because I also have questions about select board fees, like gravel pit annual registration and stuff like that, that I think that we need to get some information on that, like $50 for an annual fee for a gravel pit that's impacting our town road. I have concerns about that.
I don't think that's being paid at all.
Yeah, and so what I'm thinking is, I think we have more work on this than we have time right now.
And it probably should be more of a workshop
Yeah.
type discussion rather than, because, and then we can get George in it, because he'll know,
Yeah.
I mean, how it's, because I'm sure George follows the ordinance to a T.
Yeah, I get that.
He'll be able to add value to the conversation, I think, if we get him in, and he'll let us know.
And these guys have talked about it, so it's,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think that we're just bringing up some things like making sure that, I agree, the staff time is super important. We already have enough going on, and if someone has to spend half a day doing administrative work around something, and they're not able to do the other things that the taxpayers are expecting, there needs to be some compensation there too. So I think we need to talk about that a little bit more. So maybe we should table this until another meeting, because I think we just opened up more cans of worms and we have fishing lines to put them on.
I don't wanna kick the can too far down the road though, because every month that goes by that we don't make changes is revenue that we don't receive, so.
Yeah.
I'm happy to make a motion to table to a future date, as long as we don't push it too far off.
Yeah.
Can we think about some of the stuff that could be changed and make that
Well,
change incrementally?
I was just gonna say, I'm fine with the residential construction changes for the electrical work.
So the things that I had changes for residential structures is that I'd like to see it go to 50 cents a square foot instead of 40. I'd like to see a line for foundations at 20 cents a square foot under the residential part. And I would like for the occupant permit fee to read per visit.
It sounds like we all agree on the per visit. Where's the 50 cent per square foot coming from?
Up top, it says residential structures at 40 cents.
Yeah, but what makes you want to go from 40 to 50 cents?
I did the math on what a typical house in Durham would be, and looking at the other fees that Alan gave us from 2022, which is 2 years old at this point, and I just think that 50 cents a square foot is a reasonable number.
We were low when last year when we went to 40 cents. We were still lower than any town around.
Okay. Josh, you have thoughts on 40 to 50 cents?
No.
Cool. I mean, I'm fine with 50 cents if we want to change it to that. So are you gonna make a motion on that?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to have residential structures be billed at 40 cents a square foot.
50 cents a square foot?
I'm sorry, 50 cents a square foot.
Yeah, I'll second that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I'm sorry, I do have a discussion. I do. Are we allowed to change this fee schedule as often as we want, or is there?
That-
Periodically.
Periodically, we just added that, yeah.
Periodically, yep.
And so,
Yep, and that says whenever, if you wanna do it 5 times a year or every 4 years.
Are you more comfortable waiting and doing it all in one fell swoop?
I-
I think if we don't kick the can too far down the road, I'm in agreement with that also. If you're feeling like you wanna get one section done at a time, we can
Next
do
time,
that as
just
well.
pick a section for next time.
well, that's what,
and do that.
if the residential construction and the electrical was gonna be simple, I'd say we could have just approved that tonight, but it sounds like we have more discussion. So if you wanna withdraw your motion, we can do that at a later date, or if you're comfortable,
It's fine.
all right, well, all in favor of the 50 cents per square foot? Any options? All right,
Nice.
cool. So, what did you say about foundations?
Foundations at 20 cents a square
And
foot.
that's not in here now?
It's not.
So just when they pour the foundations,
Because that's already gonna be part of the regular.
part of the
building
regular inspection, for regular building inspection.
You still have to go out multiple times to inspect, like that they've backfilled correctly and whatnot, so.
But isn't that part of the regular building inspection? 'Cause
Yes.
like you pour the foundation, and then you're building the house on top of it, that's
They're
all.
not happening at the same time though, and other towns charge for foundations.
So are we, if right now if someone pours a foundation, they don't need a building permit?
Yes, they do.
So, but we're not capturing that when we have the foundation. What are you saying we're not capturing?
A separate fee for
A
foundations.
separate fee for foundations.
So what if someone is just gonna pour a foundation today and they're gonna build their house next year? What are they getting charged right now?
Building permit.
So we are charging them. But next year when they,
If they pour a foundation, they're building. So if they haven't gotten a permit, they're gonna get double billed for the building permit.
and then
What
next
I'm-
year they come back out and build the rest of the house. They're
They,
going back out?
they can.
He's going
they can
out
conti-
multiple times. When the foundation is poured, he has to go out, and once the foundation is poured to make sure that's done, then when they backfill it, he has to go out again, and then they start to build.
But think of a whole house construction is $800 to $1,400. So I would guess that my time over that building period is adequate. I think that's an adequate fee. I think it's an adequate fee.
Well,
I do have to go out multiple times for foundations, but I go multiple times for lots of things.
how about just for the sake of time tonight, can we just vote to accept the existing, minus that 50 cent change, can we vote to accept the existing residential construction and electrical fees, and then table the addition of new fees and the editing of the others, just because I wanna make sure we can get that easily, those low-hanging fruits taken care
Can you
of.
change can you talk about the residential construction adds to square footage, period, and that's all, that first sentence, I wanna put that in the fee structure.
All
So
residential
anything-
construction that adds square footage to the lot is billed at residential structure rates.
Yeah, so everything, instead of that little, I wanna get rid of that garages, barns,
just wanna
other
say-
miscellaneous. I wanna get rid of that part, that is billed at 15 cents a square foot, I want that to go away.
Yeah, you already X'd that out.
Yeah.
So what I'm proposing is that we vote to approve the residential construction section
As proposed.
as proposed
Nice.
with the red indicating the new changes that are added and the strike mark being removed. So this will just be whatever is in red or not stricken through.
And changing 40 to 50.
We already voted to change 40 to 50.
Okay,
And so we're
and
just,
adding visit to occupancy permit
Yeah.
fee.
Yep, per visit, $50 per visit.
so, is that a motion?
Yes.
Second?
Sure.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay,
Awesome.
that's done. And then, are we okay with the new electrical fee, just the electrical section, to increase and decrease those things? And then we're gonna be done, and we're gonna table the rest of this.
Yes, just make sure that it's clear, because he didn't strike replace
So
electrical
we will,
service
yeah,
panel.
so I move that we accept the electrical edits. In addition, we will strike replace electrical service panel or meter socket or gen installation switch
From
from
that
the
line.
first line,
Yep.
because it was a clerical error. I made a motion, first one today.
So moved.
All right.
Nice.
Any additional discussion? All in favor? No opposition. All right, so I move that we table this, the rest of the edits to a later meeting.
So moved.
All right, we got a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Perfect. And so for me, I would like to maybe eyeball that second meeting in July for this, or the first meeting in July. It's just the first meeting in July, we're approving the school board.
I think we
Nominee.
should not have it the first meeting in
So
July.
I'm just gonna,
Is this better for a workshop on a non-busy night?
really should be.
could we just, are we allowed to just do a workshop instead of our meeting?
Oh, absolutely.
So that might be something we wanna just plan on the second meeting in July being a fee structure workshop.
Okay.
And we can just sign AP warrants and just do that, and then plan accordingly to add what we need to at the first meeting in July, and add what we need to at the first meeting of August.
You said you wanted all the things on a group too.
Mhm.
These are administrative fees that are in the front office.
Mhm.
And they're nowhere, but they're standalone by themselves.
Mhm.
And some of the things are not correct. For example, I know there's a law that passed 2 years ago that if we charge for FOA information, we can't charge more than 10 cents a copy.
Mhm.
And we don't have that in here. So do
We'll
you
put
want
that on
that
the
part of
workshop.
this too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's statutory, right? I mean, I don't.
That is. So we're saying that we charge 50 cents period. And you can't do that.
okay. Can you hand those to us, we'll just keep the
Yes.
copies and
Yep.
we can talk about how we wanna adjust that. Thank you, Alan.
What is steering committee?
That's the, for the community steering committee appointments, the people who are gonna help with the downtown revitalization. We can table this until next meeting, so if you wanna move to table that
I'll move to table steering committee to the next
to
meeting.
July 9th, so. Second, any discussion? All in favor? All right, no opposition, so that's gonna be tabled. So we're done with new business there. The only thing I would say is that we have received all of the applications for school board, everyone who has indicated their interest. And we have 3 applicants, Michael Osga, Candace, and I'm sorry if I say this last name, Candace DeSipkis, Candace DeSipkis, and Stephanie Worth. Those
Rebecca Polster.
and Rebecca Polster. Those are the 4 folks who have, and Rebecca Polster. So I'll repeat that. We have 4 people who have expressed interest: Michael Osga, Candace DeSipkis, Stephanie Worth, and Rebecca Polster.
Sorry, Candy.
Thank you. All right, and so the process is next week we will I'll ask those folks if they're interested to come in and provide outside of a regular public comment period. They will be able to tell us why they want to be on the board, and then we can ask them some questions. You had a question, Jess?
Yep, I had a question today from one of the candidates. They want to know if you're going to be asking them one-on-one questions or as a group.
I hadn't thought about that.
Maybe we could get back to them.
Can we get back to them on? Well,
Until I get back to them.
my initial thought is that we're going to ask the candidates to just tell them us why they want to be on the board, and we can then ask them some follow-up questions about their responses, and in a group setting so it can be seen publicly. And I think that would be the best way to do it, because I don't want it to seem. It should all be public. The questions with them should all be public.
Yeah,
So
but it sounds
let's
like
just
you're gonna
plan.
address them one-on-one.
Yeah, but it's not like we're gonna have them. It's not like everyone's leaving the room or anything. This is in a public venue. We're just gonna say, Mr. Osga,
What
we have
she's
a question
saying
for
is,
you.
are we gonna say, what would you do about X, and then let all four of them answer? Or are we gonna say, ask this person this question, and this person this question? She's
My intent is to ask I don't see us proposing.
Like, are you gonna have Michael come up, and you're gonna ask Michael all his questions, and then he's gonna leave the seat?
And they need to know that ahead of time?
What's that?
And they need to know that ahead of time as to like,
One candidate did ask if what the platform was gonna be like.
I mean, we're just gonna direct the questions to one person at a time, whether they're all sitting up there at once or, I would imagine it would just be easier to have them all sitting up there and ask a question and then say, same question to so-and-so, same question to so-and-so. So I hadn't thought about whether we'll have them come up one at a time. I'm open for what you all think.
When they did meet the candidates, they were,
Well-
right, when you did meet the candidates, the year that you ran, you guys were all up there and people asked the same question for everybody to answer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that should probably be the plan, unless there's something specific to follow up on
Like if you want
individually.
an applicant to elaborate on what they said, they say something, say, could you please explain that more? So I would say it would be more like a panel. And then it is not a public asking the candidates question period. This is purely just us, and we're having public comment prior, so I do not want to have us ask questions and then have public comment period where people are going to say, this is what I think about so-and-so's response. We get the public input at the beginning of the meeting, and then when we move into this, that's where we as a board will ask questions and not the public. And then we will make a decision, plan to make a decision on July 9th. So. All right. Manager report.
Okay, it's getting late, I don't have a lot, I was out
Yep.
last week, and I'm out next week. So to put the agenda together, if we could get together before the end of Thursday for
This
next
week?
Yeah.
Yep, I can do that. We can do that
Just do
Thursday.
that, and
Yep.
then I can set Jessica up
Yep,
to get the agenda out.
works for me.
To help bring Durham a little bit closer to the 21st century, and I don't mean that to be.
No, I understand what you're saying.
I've been looking at getting a service of push notifications. Are you familiar with what push notifications are? So I've talked to this one company.
So I am familiar, but someone watching might
Yeah,
not be.
so
Could you say
basically
what that is?
Push notification is, it's an app on your phone that is designed to be Durham, the town of Durham's app.
Mhm.
So they make them for both Androids and iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to do this, and you downloaded the app, you have to, say allow notification, and it would be, and what it is there'd be a couple administrators, and we would send out notifications like, power lines down on Swamp Road, structure fire here, planning board meetings, select board meeting, and whoever signs up for these gets this app, and allows them, will get notified of what's going on.
And then somewhere on the app, there's a calendar that all these things live.
There are different things that we can do.
And you might probably can set up for a reminder. Remind me 15 minutes before a select board meeting or something like that.
Yeah, they're just, like I said, they're push notifications, that's what they call
Mhm.
them. So whatever we wanted to know, if there was a tree down across the road, it would be good for the fire
Yeah.
department, good for public works. Guilford
Yep.
Town Hall. So it's $3,900 a year, but they will prorate us this year, and I think I can find the money. I have the contract right here. Not a contract, but you guys can look at it, and I can send it to you in the mail. I don't need an answer tonight, I just wanna kinda get your feeling on
Yeah.
how you feel about providing that service to the residents if they sign up. There's no phone numbers, there's no emails. They go to the app store, they download the Durham, Town of Durham app. That's it.
So,
And you can look through, they get notified, and like I said, if there's anything, if there's a flood in the road, it's just a really good, if we put up a warming center, we can, or a cooling center, or whatever notification that we wanna get out
Yeah.
there, we can do it, and we can do it like that. And not only that, once we do that notification, it automatically goes to the website, Facebook, and News Blast.
Yeah.
So it's a one-stop shop for Kimberly when she does these notifications, instead of having to go to all three spots
Yeah.
to do the same information. So
yeah.
towns are doing this.
Wales is doing it. and
Yeah,
it's
I
awesome.
mean, even your really small towns.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a good idea.
So I agree. Can you send this to us? We'll
Yeah, I'll
review it
send
and
it
we
to
can
you.
talk about it at
Yeah.
at a future meeting.
And the way,
Because-
it takes, so let me say, it takes 4 weeks to get set up.
Yep.
And after that 4 weeks, the company, GoGov, will credit us a month. They won't charge us for a month. So this year, it'd be like $1,300. We can see if we like it. If we don't like it, we can get rid of it. If we like it and keep it going, we'll just have to budget for it for 2025.
Yep. I like the idea because it gets to the point where a lot of folks are asking for better communication
Right.
from the town, and in many ways, if it cuts down on staff time from having to go 3 places, it might end up buying us some extra space and time in there. So
It's just a good media to notify residents who are interested and wanna get the app.
push notification. Cool. If you send it to us, and we can talk about it at a future, probably maybe next meeting or the meeting after.
That's pretty much all I had. Like I said, I was out last week, so there's not a lot of new developments going on right now. We talked about
Yep.
most of them tonight in the agenda, so
Perfect.
I don't really have anything of much importance really that we should know about at least right now.
Perfect. The consent agenda. Heather, you said you wanted to pull the minutes out.
I do, and there was just one thing really quickly under board member reports. I don't know if we should put it on our radar that at our next board meeting, just because of how contentious the issue around the school board seat is becoming, if we should consider having law enforcement here. We don't have to talk about that, I just think that should maybe be a conversation between you and Jerry.
That's a good point. I had thought about that too.
And I'm happy to make a motion to remove the minutes from the consent agenda from
Yep, go
the
ahead.
6/11/24 meeting.
Okay. Make a motion. I'll second it. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll come on removing.
We just received them tonight when we got here,
Oh.
and when I started reading through them, they're not reading the same way that I remember, so I just would like a little more time to review them, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
So we had somebody else, we kinda switched up. a little
Yeah.
bit, so
And so why don't we just
I
approve those at the
appreciate
next
your
meeting?
feedback on that though.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hadn't had a chance to look at it either since I've been back. It's been,
Yeah, so for anyone watching, we just noticed some inconsistencies with the meeting minutes, so we're gonna review those, and then, we'll approve them at the next meeting and make edits if we need. Alright, so the rest of the consent agenda, approve and sign AP warrants, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Alright, seconded, all in favor? Any opposition? Got none, cool, so we can start
Do we-
signing those things.
Under our new bylaws, do we need to vote to go past 9 o'clock?
I think we do need to accept the, oh,
Yes,
sorry.
Doesn't actually vote when Heather motioned to pull the minutes out.
Oh, sorry.
Motion, Joey seconded, you guys didn't actually vote.
Yep,
So can we go back though and
well-
vote to extend the meeting past 9 o'clock before we do that, because
yeah, so I should say, it's not, with our new bylaws, it's 9 o'clock. In order to continue the meeting, I would need to have a motion to continue the meeting. Do I have that motion?
I'll make a motion to continue the meeting until 9:30.
Alright, any second?
second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? None. And so, Heather, you made a motion to remove the meeting minutes. I'll second that. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposition? None. Alrighty, so now we're square, and we moved for the consent agenda, so we just gotta sign that. Upcoming meetings, we have select board meeting 7/9/24 and 7/23/24, and then the planning board is meeting at 7/10/24, and I would like to make a motion to move into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 405 for personnel matter. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? Perfect. So,
Well, we
Jess,
gotta shut that
I was gonna
down.
say, Jess, we won't make you stay. We can finish the rest of the notes if that
Did
works for you.
we actually do a vote and to approve the consent agenda?
Yes, we did.
We did.
Yes.
Heather motioned, I seconded.
And I think it was just on the AP warrant.
After we removed the minutes.
So enter into executive session at 9:10, and I'll write what time we come out and if anything happens after.
And there's a few extra pieces of paper here to sign today.